of you. So stop by and see us in the corner of Frankfurt and 23rd next to Bill Kramer GM. Or call us at 850-851-0453.
Signworks, a business serving businesses since 1985. Everything from signs and banners, vehicles and boats, magnetic and real estate signs, contractor signs, and much more. Signworks can do large format, full color printing too. Signworks, a real professional in the business world. Call Signworks at 785-8899. Signworks, 850-785-8899.
As adults, we love our coffee. But what about the effects of caffeine on our kids? Hi, this is Doug Chamberlain with the Samaritan Ministries Family Health Checkup. When it comes to kids, we may be more unaware of their caffeine consumption than we realize. Studies show that around 70% of children consume caffeine on a daily basis. The long-term effects are unknown, but what we do know is caffeine raises heart rate, increases blood pressure, and anxiety. And while soft drink consumption has declined somewhat, energy drinks are on the rise, and some contain twice the amount of sugar and caffeine. As a parent, that's a concern. In addition, if your kids are in athletics or have sleep challenges, we know that caffeine dehydrates our body and affects our sleep. So monitor your child's intake of caffeine and protect them against its effects. For more about your family's health, visit FamilyHealthCheckup.org.
Every moment counts if you're at risk or living with lung cancer. And anyone with lungs can get lung cancer. It causes more cancer deaths than breast, colon, and prostate combined. It can feel like a race against time. And while there may be moments where you question your next step, it's essential to know that you don't have to confront lung cancer alone. Through it all, Go-To for Lung Cancer is here for you. From screening, treatment, and survivorship support to finding the right care close to home, we are your community. As your friends, your guides, your teachers, your advocates, and your support system, Go-To is your go-to. Confronting lung cancer starts here. Visit goto.org today.
WGSX Lynn Haven, WVLQ Port St. Joe. Powered by Panama City Toyota, ESPN Northwest Florida. Get ready. The Afternoon Underdogs are on the air.
Live and local.
Weekdays from 4 till 6.
This thing is going to be a financial and cultural disaster.
The Afternoon Underdogs.
Whopper, 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 whopper.
The Afternoon Underdogs are on the air. ESPN Northwest Florida.
What is going on, Panama City? You're now riding along with the Afternoon Underdogs, tuned in here to ESPN Northwest Florida, your home for Auburn Tiger basketball. They're going to be taking on the Vanderbilt Commodores tonight, and coverage for that will start right at the time for tip, 6 p.m. I'm David Hayes along with Caveman Rick. We will have Tyler Bishop in the building with us here in a little bit. Caveman Rick, how's it going, my friend? Are you on top of the world or not?
Yeah, I'm like Sammy Hagar and Van Halen, man. I'm standing on top of the world right now.
Hey,
just for a little while.
Just for a little while, you know. It's just kind of like baseball season. Baseball season just ended, but now we get to flip the page to 2025, and that is some exciting stuff as, you know, the Dodgers are still on top, if you will, and they are going to be looking to repeat as World Series champions. Hopefully that is not the case, but we're going to have Sam Peebles joining us here at 4:20 to talk about the Atlanta Braves as we get ready for the pitchers and catchers to report tomorrow afternoon over there in Northport, Florida, getting ready for it as we are your home for the Atlanta Braves right here on the Gulf Coast, and we'll be bringing you almost every single pitch here from 2025. We're streaming live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitch. You can like and share the Facebook feed and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also download the app and register. Just go to your Google Play or your Apple Store and type in 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida. Now we're on your smart speaker for in-home listening. Just say, Alexa, well, I guess you have to say, hey, Alexa, open ESPN Northwest Florida. Or you can say, hey, Siri, open 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida. Every time I do that, my phone starts acting bananas. Chef Ross chiming in the chat. He says, what's up, fellas? Chef Ross, how are you? How is the recovery going for the total hip replacement that you had in early January? Hopefully everything is doing well. Noticed that he was able to get out for the Super Bowl and broke even on his prop bets. That's what he had in his best and worst of the weekend.
I also heard he's off the walker now.
Are you off the walker?
He's on a cane. He had a post or something not too long ago. So
hey, well, there you go.
Getting around a little bit better.
Hey, yeah, I'm very excited for that. We're watching NFL Live here in the studio right now, and they're saying that the Titans will select cornerback / wide receiver Travis Hunter, #1 overall. We'll see how that plays out. That will be a fun experiment, I guess. But I think that pretty much whichever way you go, if you're the Tennessee Titans, it will be an experiment, whether that's Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, or Travis Hunter there. And there's also the guy out of Penn State. Can't think of his name.
Abdul Carter.
Yeah, Abdul Carter. That's exactly right. They're saying they're looking for a generational talent. I would look for a generational trade right here. Tyler Bishop joining us here. Big Bulldogs fan, big Eagles fan, I'm sure, for the Super Bowl. Well, actually, that was a tough one for you, huh?
Yeah, I couldn't afford to not be a Kansas City fan on Sunday. His
girlfriend's a Chiefs fan.
Oh, yeah.
And the
She
Eagles
has a family member that played for the Chiefs, though, correct?
Yeah, he played for the Chiefs. His name is actually like in their Ring of Honor. So, and he worked in the front office on not like the GM side, but more like the community outreach program.
Gotcha.
He was there for a long while. He actually just recently like semi-retired. He was part of when they had the draft there 2 years ago now, he got to be one of the guys who like brought the local kids up on the stage and that side of it. So, like I said, it's hard not to root for him. I don't consider myself a bandwagon because it's not like I'm pretending to be a diehard Chiefs fan or like grew up being a Chiefs fan. I'm not claiming it.
We know you're a dog fan.
But it's good for some of those guys. I mean, Jordan Davis, hard guy not to like.
Yeah.
Jalen Carter, guy's a monster on the field.
On my side of the fish, Jalen Hurd. I mean,
Nolan Smith, those guys, like, it's crazy. Some like
who was it that was injured? Was it Nakobe Dean that was injured?
Yeah. Hurt, yeah.
But I mean, like Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith, they've won 2 national titles in a Super Bowl in the last 4 years of playing football. Like that's not
like, do they know what success is not like? Do they know what failure is like at all?
No, man. That's. I mean, their worst season was last year.
I guess their biggest failure was not speeding when they were driving at their Lamborghinis around Georgia.
Well, they were one and done in the playoffs last year, right? The Eagles.
Yeah. They lost to Tampa.
That's the worst season they've had in the last 4 years of football. Like that's not a bad year.
And it was still a playoff year.
Yeah. So,
my goodness, well, it's great to have Tyler back with us here. I know last week he was sick, and just no more football, but we're going to continue to talk about football throughout the, we've got NBA playoffs coming up. Well, we've got the NBA regular season, NHL regular season.
March Madness coming up.
March Madness, excited about that. Your Georgia Bulldogs playing some decent basketball.
We're on the bubble.
For the first time in history, the SEC during the regular season is going to have a #1 and a #2 team playing against each other. That's going to be Alabama and Auburn. The Iron Bowl of basketball is going to be commencing this Saturday, and you can hear that game right here on ESPN Northwest Florida, coverage starting at 2:30, 3 p.m.
They should play for an Iron basketball.
Does the Iron Bowl is that like a cross sport thing, or is that?
I've never heard it called. And again, I can't sit here and tell you guys that I followed Alabama basketball like I have, or really collegiate basketball like I have with college football. Like normally, my whole life, and this is before I ever got into sports radio. My whole life was I started focusing on college basketball in the conference championships. Now I try to get into that earlier and earlier each year. It's just really hard when college football and then the NFL is really dominating what it is that I'm watching. And there's only so many things that you can keep on the forefront of your mental.
I guess it's a little harder because, I mean, typically basketball, they'll play like a home and a home. They'll play twice. So it's not the same.
Alabama and Auburn are playing twice this year.
Yeah,
so they're playing this week.
Same as like the Iron Bowl. It's the one time a year you play.
It is an intense rivalry.
Oh, yeah. I don't
it's
doubt
still
that.
an intense rivalry. I just don't think that a lot of, and I could be very wrong on this, I don't think that a lot of college basketball rivalries have names what we have in college football. And again, I think it goes to your point of they only play once a year. in that. Whereas in basketball, for many of the years, there's most opponents you only play one time a year.
But your rivals, you're probably playing twice.
Exactly. Let's get over to the phone line. A guy that I actually got to shake his hand and talk a little trash. We were both talking trash to each other. A big fella he is, a big Miami Hurricanes fan he is. Eric with an A. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. What's up, my friend?
What's up, Mr. Diamond Cutter D himself?
Wow.
Mr. Diamond Cutter D. Throwing that Diamond Cutter out there, putting on a heck of a show. Hey, man, I wanted to call and I just wanted to tell everybody how awesome that whole experience of wrestling against cancer was. If you weren't there, man, yeah, you should have been. It seemed like everybody was there. That place was packed. And it was awesome. It was just it was a live crowd. It was also it was really awesome to see everybody come together. How much love they threw to Ryan Holland, who, by the way, I shook his hand as well and told him he's in my prayers. And it looked to me like you guys did a lot of good for him on that night. I also wanted to say congratulations to Caveman Rick. He was rocking his Philly jersey that night, and yeah, congrats. Who would have thought, man? Who would have thought such a beating? I mean, just an absolute beatdown. And I mean, to make Patrick Mahomes look like an embarrassment out there on the football field was just wild. But more important than that, though, it really the wrestling against cancer was the highlight of my week. There's no doubt about that. Meeting all you guys, being up there right next to the ring, it was a blast. And I just want to tell people if they didn't get to go this year, make sure you go next year, because man, it's all for the right reasons. It's all for the right cause. And it was just a great time, man. It was a lot of fun.
It really was, man. It was great to have you guys there, and y'all know, participate in all of the matches, right? Just yelling back and forth and getting up for the wrestlers. And we had Deadpool, we had Captain America, we had Rogue there, and it was just a great time. Diamond Dallas Page was there as well, and as you mentioned, Ryan was very, very pleased with the event, and I spent the rest of the evening there with him. I didn't even end up leaving Bay Haven till about 11 o'clock or so. Then we went to Waffle House afterwards, and he enjoyed it. His wife enjoyed it, and it was a great evening. And like you said, that's what it's all about right there. And I really do appreciate, from the bottom of my heart, you coming out there. Now, when you're sitting here talking to me on the radio, I know what you look like. And I'm glad that we had a barricade in between us when I was talking smack to you, because I was like, this guy would just ruin me in one. He could just poke me one finger and I'd fall over at that point. But yeah, it was really great to meet you, and thanks so much for coming out.
I'm scared to death of that Diamond Cutter. What are you talking about?
Hey, well, I gotta be able to get away from you to be able to put that Diamond Cutter down. Oh man! Again, thanks for the call, my friend, and as always, go Canes.
Sir. Yes, sir. Go Canes. God bless, bro.
Hey, God bless. Yeah, man. That's one of my, again, I'll say it every time that someone calls in, one of my favorite things. I would say my favorite thing is being able to learn the people who are calling in, learn the people who are spending their time listening. We had a guy call in the other week and win something on trivia. They came to pick up their prize package yesterday. I believe his name was Ed and Michelle, yeah. And he said, he listens all the time, and that was one of his first things that he's ever won on the radio. And just to be able to make that happen and be able to make someone's day is awesome. So if you're driving around the streets of Panama City or Port St. Joe, give us a call, 850-215-6290. We appreciate you guys more than you know. Chef Ross says he's always said that basketball season starts in February and ends in April, and I mean, I don't disagree with him. There's a lot of people who once college basketball season starts, they are all in with that, and that's the beauty of sports is there's so many to choose from, right? And even like this year, I've been watching more wrestling, professional wrestling, than I have in the past. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because talking to Brian and Kyle Wright and all of these guys all the time, but I was watching Raw last night, had it on the TV, watched the Logan Paul and Rey Mysterio match, and it was interesting. Also interesting, the Saints going out. Now, it's not interesting that the Saints hired Kellen Moore. That is best available.
What a dope.
Yeah.
But that's what's surprising to me is the fact that Kellen Moore is taking this job on the heels of winning the Super Bowl. He's going from a team that's, you can make the argument for, the most talented team. They just won the Super Bowl, but again, that doesn't always translate to what you look like on paper. But what the Eagles look like on paper is one of the best teams in the NFL.
They look like a Super Bowl team, and they won it.
And they won the Super Bowl. Now they're still going to have one of the cheapest rosters in the league, some of the best young players, especially when you look at that defensive front. Jalen Hurts isn't getting that much older, right, just off of 1 year. Saquon Barkley, argumentatively, the best running back in the game. I would say best running back in the game.
Most dynamic right now, yeah, by far.
Absolutely most dynamic, right? Receiving core, out the wazoo good. Jahan Dotson had himself a heck of a Super Bowl as well. You led that team, not that he led them, Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator. You helped that team get to the Super Bowl. You put them in a successful position, and now you're going to go from one of the best rosters, maybe the best roster in the National Football League, and you're going to go to the Saints to head that job up. They don't even got, they are in the negatives.
Yeah.
They're in cap
$65 million.
I think it's over 70 now. I think it's 71.
How do they keep on losing money?
Either way, 60 plus million.
Well, I saw it today. I think it was a little over 70. You're splitting hairs, but yeah. I mean, wow.
I ain't got no hairs to split, and we're splitting these hairs. Absolutely ridiculous. Before we get to Caveman Rick's thoughts, because I know he's got a lot of thoughts on this and a lot of thoughts on the Super Bowl. Tyler, what do you think about Kellen Moore taking this job?
It's hard to blame the guy, right? Like, because that's the ultimate goal. You don't get into coaching to not want, more than like you want to be the guy at some point. Sometimes we see guys, that hang around as a coordinator forever and it doesn't pan out for them. But 90%, 99% of these guys, this is the dream. So maybe in his mind, like, if I don't jump on it now, maybe I'll never get a chance. I think that's poor thinking because, like you said, the Eagles next year are going to be a pretty dang good football team. He would have had options next year. But also on the flip side of that, what was it? Bobby Slowick over there in Houston.
Yeah.
Everybody thought he was going to be, it was going to be him and Ben Johnson this offseason, like who gets the job. And then he got fired from the Texans. So maybe there is something to be said for striking while the iron is hot. But man, the Saints are such a tough spot to be in. Derek Carr's your quarterback, which for better or for worse, Alvin Kamara is getting older. That defense is getting old. Their cap situation is awful. And it's just, outside
they got a couple of dudes, wide receivers, Rashid Shaheed.
And Olave, that's not
Olave.
bad, but it's and maybe as a coach you have to be confident in your abilities to elevate that team.
Yeah, you can't be that confident. That's almost like a dumb confidence.
Yeah, that's
almost arrogance.
Yeah, that's arrogant.
Like you're going to be able to sit there and take the Saints, which again, if you're thinking that you can do that in time, that's one thing. My issue with it, and maybe he has some sort of ties that I haven't researched into that he might have with the city of New Orleans.
I doubt it.
That's
where he played at Boise.
Midway, exactly, and he beat Derek Carr in a game while both of them were in college.
That's crazy.
Like 55-7 when because Derek Carr was over there at Fresno State, he was at Boise State. They played. It was like 55-7 or something.
Yeah.
You're a better quarterback, Kellen Moore.
Yeah, it's rough. Like I said, it's hard to blame a guy for taking a job because there's only 32 of those. They don't.
I'm not hating on him for getting the money,
man. Like
what I'm saying is you have tasted success. You also know the spectrum, right? Like trash cow, like not saying Cowboys as a whole trash, but you've been a part of the Cowboys when they had very unsuccessful seasons. Then you've also had successful seasons with the Cowboys in which y'all were bounced in first round, right?
Yeah.
Divisional round against the Packers. Got embarrassed in that game. Then you go to the Eagles and you win the Super Bowl. So you've been on top of the world. You've been at the bottom of the barrel.
He was actually the Chargers last year before he came to us.
Yeah. He was with Staley
Brandon Staley.
And who's supposed to be his defensive coordinator, which is kind of hilarious.
Yep.
Yeah, he was in San Diego, LA for a year in between Dallas and Philly.
Yep.
So he even has what it's like to work under Staley. So that gives you an idea of this is the type of coach that I don't want to be.
Ended up with the number 5 overall pick. So
right, exactly.
That's how good their year went.
Yeah, again, it's one of those situations where, and if I was Kellen Moore and the Bears would have reached out, then it's like, hey, look, let me get through this. Yeah. Let me get through the playoffs here, and if y'all are still open, then we'll make that. But the Bears were set on Ben Johnson. There's no doubt about it. I think Jacksonville would have been a better place to go, somewhere where you have some sort of security in who your quarterback's going to be, which I don't think that there's a true security blanket around Derek Carr with how those conversations are going. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Got them in this hole, right? Like they didn't fire Mickey Loomis, right? Like I'm pretty sure they still have the same GM
still there
that has put them in this hole.
Yeah.
So it's like, why? Like,
so now you're just gonna let's go deeper and deeper and deeper.
I mean, they did give Dennis Allen 3-4-ish years.
They gave him enough time.
So they seem like a relatively patient franchise. Well, there's something to be said for that, right? We've seen the Browns burn and turn coaches at times. We've seen the Raiders burn and turn coaches at times. So like, there's something to be said for a franchise that may give you enough rope to hang yourself, but that's silly.
Chef Ross says, how long did Eric Bieniemy hold out for the perfect job? I don't think that it was Eric Bieniemy holding out for the perfect job. It was the teams holding out on him for him to be the perfect candidate. AG says, what up, boys? Nicholas Perry says that he's tuned in right now. We appreciate all of you guys listening with us. If you want to shout out, text your name in to 850-215-6290, and we will get that going for you. We've got trivia coming up at 4:40. Tyler's takes on a Tuesday coming up at the top of hour number 2, and then we'll dive into some of these coaching hires and get Caveman Rick, myself, and Tyler Bishop to give some letter grades. Y'all want to do some grading hires here for the NFL coaching carousel that has been, because it is all wrapped up. Caveman Rick, I know I said I was going to give you 20 minutes to talk about the Super Bowl. We'll find some more time, but I'll give you the rest of this minute and a half here that we have before we get Sam Peebles on to tell us what your takeaways were from Super Bowl 59 when the Chiefs accomplished the three-peat. At least that's what it will say on the shirts that are going to be sent over there to Africa.
Yeah, so everybody over there is thinking that they did win 3 in a row, right? Well, actually, no, it would be 1 because they send a losing shirt.
Yeah, so it's like Eagles, 49ers, Chiefs, three-peat.
Right, yeah, exactly right. So the score at the end obviously did not reflect what happened during that game. The first 3 quarters, like I said, it was a curb stomping. It was a beat down of like biblical proportions. Couldn't be any happier. Well, actually, maybe a little bit more if we would actually shut them out.
Yeah.
And got the first ever Super Bowl shutout. That would have been pretty sweet. On the backs of that defense. Defense came to play like we thought they were. I mean, they got to Patrick Mahomes. He's been sacked the most times in any game, 6 times in that game. Forced them to throw a couple of picks, a forced fumble. We made them just look horrible. I can't tell you how ecstatic that made me feel. I went into it very confident, thinking that we were going to have a good showing, and we got that. They did hold Saquon, back. He didn't get 100 yards. In fact, he barely got 60 yards.
Yeah.
But, hey, they said, hey, we're going to stop Saquon, and we're going to make Jalen Hurts beat us. Well, what do? He beat y'all. And I don't know why you'd think that, because, 2 years ago before this, he outplayed Patrick Mahomes on the field that day as well. Even though we didn't win that game, we only lost by 3. So, and if it wasn't for a boneheaded penalty towards the end of that game, we might have walked away with that one as well.
Yeah, come on, James Bradbury.
So, like I said, all in all, it was a great game. Even Jake Elliott, our kicker, that was having some issues, he made all of his picks. So, it was a great game, start to finish. The only negative I think I might say or take away from that game is we took the foot off the gas. We should have throttled them. We should have hung 55 on them like we did on the Commanders a couple weeks prior. So
those points can carry over for 2000.
Yeah, but we did score the most points in the playoffs, like I believe ever now, by a team. We had the most ever, I believe, the best turnover differential, plus 12 for the playoffs, I believe, ever, too, for a playoff team throughout the playoffs. So very good showing, man. Like, I'm very proud of my boys, and I just want to, keep it rolling. I want to see what Howie Roseman does in this offseason, see what kind of additions we can make as well, see what other people we can maybe steal from some other teams, maybe fleece like a Myles Garrett from the Browns, say, or something like that, and just, keep the roster, just balling out with a bunch of studs, and let's go for 2 in a row.
And Ryan Mulvey on the Inside Drive this morning was asking me, where I thought Myles Garrett would land, and I think you got to go with not just contender, but some of the top contenders: Lions, Chiefs, and Eagles. And then once I said Eagles, I'm like, can you imagine how unfair that would be if the Eagles land?
What do we say about fair?
Exactly.
It's a place where you judge pigs and pies, yo.
Yep, absolutely. Boston Tim texting in. He says Jake Elliott had his MVP vote, which, I mean, how cool would have that been to have a kicker in a 40-point game and the kicker ends up winning the MVP? I thought it would have been really cool for Cooper DeJean to win the MVP.
On his birthday, too, no less.
Yeah, right. Saquon to even score a touchdown on his birthday. How surprising was that? But Jalen Hurts breaking the all-time Super Bowl record for a quarterback rushing, and he set that record 2 years ago in the Super Bowl. Really glad for him. I mean, talk about the adversity that he's faced throughout his career, the wins that he's amassed at every stop that he's had playing football. Just a very impressive young man. There's no doubt about that. If your kid plays quarterback and you want your child to emulate someone, if nothing else, maybe it's not the style and the way that he plays the game, but watch his post-game press conferences and his even kill attitude that he has. Just a very inspirational young man. There's no doubt about that. You guys are riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. Coming up next, Sam Peebles gets us ready for Atlanta Braves spring training.
Your home for college basketball. ESPN Northwest Florida.
The number one Auburn Tigers 14-game winning streak came to an end last week, but they're ready to start a new one. Tonight, the Auburn Tigers are in Nashville to face conference foes, the Vanderbilt Commodores. Tip-off coming up at 6 right here on your home for college basketball and the Auburn Tigers.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
War Eagle.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida with your Tuesday's weather. The rest of the day, there will be a gentle breeze out of the south, some sun and 71. Mostly clouds tonight, about the same at 67. Tomorrow, partly cloudy and a moderate breeze right around 13 miles per hour with a high of 73. About the same at 71 Thursday, and we'll have a likelihood of thunderstorms and light showers. This forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for tuning into ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Ellis Agency Insurance has been serving Panama City and Bay County for years. They offer a full line of affordable insurance coverage of all types. Many people are attracted to Ellis Agency Insurance because of their friendly, knowledgeable staff. Call independent agent Johnny Ellis for a true comparison of your personal or business insurance. Ellis Agency Insurance at the Old Cullen Insurance location, 1134 Harrison Avenue, across from Dandy Donuts and Deli. Call 763-1627.
Hewitt Tire and Auto. Call 850-769-7323. Your certified AAA service center and hometown towing. Visit them online at HewittTire.com. On Airport Road in Panama City. 850-769-7323. Hewitt Tire and Auto Center and hometown towing.
Need a tow? Call Billy at Hometown Towing, 850-265-1562.
Get the edge on the competition with the latest lines, expert picks, and everything you need to place your bets. Elevate your game day experience with ESPN Northwest Florida. Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs. ESPN Northwest Florida.
Welcome back into the Doghouse. You are listening to ESPN Northwest Florida, your spot for select Orlando Magic games. 104.3 here in Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. I'm David Hayes, along with our college football prognosticator, Tyler Bishop and Caveman Rick. Now we're going to go over to the phone line with our great friend, the host and creator of the Braves Dugout Podcast, getting you guys ready for the upcoming season for the Atlanta Braves as the pitchers and catchers get ready to report tomorrow afternoon. Sam Peebles riding here with the Afternoon Underdog. Sam, the man, what's going on?
Nothing much. How's it going with you guys?
Oh, we're just talking about the Super Bowl, talking about wrestling against cancer, anything that we can to keep the conversation going here surrounding our sports here in Bay County and abroad as well. But yeah, we're doing well and really excited about baseball season. I think that it's a great time to be a Braves fan, and will be maybe until the playoffs. We'll have to see. What's your excitement level on a scale of 1 to 10 for the Atlanta Braves season in 2025?
Well, I do think that as much bad luck as they had last year with injuries, I'm hoping lightning can't strike twice, and it's going to be a fun season with a bunch of healthy guys out there winning a bunch of games.
Well, there you go. I'm looking here. PECOTA, according to Braves.com, gives the Braves a 9% chance to win the World Series, which is right there with the Yankees. And there's only one team that has better odds than that. I'll give you one guess. Caveman Rick says the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't know if you've been watching the offseason at all or not, but Sam, give it a stab. Who do you think's got the best odds to win the World Series?
Well, I mean, I've already looked at the PECOTA standings, so that's kind of not fair. But I know it's the Dodgers, which is you would not be paying attention very much in off season if you didn't realize that the reigning champions did not have the best odds with an unprecedented offseason, one that I definitely did not see coming.
Do you have an issue with it? Does it make you want Major League Baseball to install a salary cap of some sort, or is the luxury tax good enough for you?
Well, here's the thing. It's just human nature that when something happens that you don't want, that means that, all right, here's the correction. Well, if you actually, if you take a step back, right, and look at it, what does a salary cap actually do? Because we just saw the Kansas City Chiefs go to the Super Bowl for the third year in a row. I mean, Major League Baseball, and I'm dying on this hill. Major League Baseball, out of all major sports, has the most unique champions of any of them, and they're the only ones without salary cap. Well, I don't know much about pro soccer, so I don't want to talk about that as if I know anything about
we
that.
can stay away from that one.
Yeah. But as far as the other major sports, baseball has the most unique champions over the last 25 years without a salary cap. So a traditional salary cap is not the answer if you're trying to fix what just happened. I think it's more so looking at the intricacies of deferred money and how that can be handled, because the Los Angeles Dodgers, it wasn't the salary cap anyways. It was because they were able to defer the money that they were able to do what they did. A salary cap probably wouldn't have really helped with that anyways. So, when you look at the luxury tax, you're looking at the annual or the annual value of each year. So you could look at it that way. But I guess what I'm getting at is it's not as simple as should there be a salary cap or not. Just implementing a traditional salary cap is not really going to change anything.
Real quick before Caveman Rick gives his reply, from Wright State, Chris, European soccer can't spend more than the revenue created the year before. So there you have it, something I won't remember 2 days from now. But thank you, Wright State. Chris, for that. Caveman Rick, what did you have in response?
One, I was going to mention the deferred money. I think that's the biggest thing is they have to do away with that, because that kind of gives you like Ohtani, man. It's almost like a free player.
What if they limit instead of getting rid of it, because it's almost like tradition in baseball now, right? What if you have a certain amount? Like, you can't go to $1 billion worth of deferred money.
No, I just think they need to get rid of it. They have the cap. They got the luxury tax. That should be enough. This was just another way for them to kind of circumvent the rules, if you will. The Dodgers found a gray area and exploited it. Just get rid of that loophole. And then nobody else can use it.
The thing that's crazy, though, is that's not the deferred money is not unique to the Dodgers. Any team can do that. Now, not every team can spend the amount of money that the Dodgers did. There's no doubt about it. But what that shows me is that it's not going to the Dodgers is not simply money. What it is like Sasaki, for example. He could have signed with any team, but he chose the Dodgers. There is a culture over there that players want to be a part of. And so, you just can't do anything but tip your cap to the Dodgers. Obviously, I'm going to make jokes about hating the Dodgers and, pretend to be upset about it. But the reality is is there's a reason players are going there beyond just the money. And so other teams, if they, the Braves do a pretty good job of creating a good environment to bring people in too, but there's more than just money involved. There's a culture that teams need to create if they want to bring in players. There's a reason free agents don't tip. There's a reason the Pirates have not signed a multi-year free agent contract since the 90s. Players do not want to go there.
Yeah, it's Pittsburgh,
and there's a reason
man.
Why.
It's Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so
it's like going to Cleveland.
Right. I mean, so there's got to be a shift more than just salaries. It's not salaries alone.
Yeah, that's it's going to be interesting to see what baseball does in the long run with this. They've worked on the on-field rules to help the product kind of connect with the younger generation, and we'll see what they do with this. Especially if I think that if the Dodgers don't repeat, then it's not as big of a deal as what everyone's saying. If they repeat, then I think we continue these conversations, and then if they three-peat, that's where it's like, all right, now is this what we want for the game of baseball moving forward? Just because the Dodgers' pockets are deep, and it's not just. See, here's the thing: what I think is missing on a lot of people's minds, and not Sam Peebles' mind at all. He knows exactly where I'm going with this. At least as soon as I say it, it's not just the roster that they have right there at the major league level. It's what they have in the farm system. It's okay if some of these guys go down, then what we can do, not even just bringing the guys up from AAA or from AA to major league to the major league level. It's what we can do at the trade deadline, or what they can do at the trade deadline. And I think that's one of the things that just makes them dangerous all the way around. And when Clayton Kershaw, they just signed on for his 18th season, is your 10th best starter in your rotation. I think that's another one of those things where, again, I'll use the term that you used. You got to tip your cap to him.
Yes, and you made an excellent point. I'm not going to claim to know this for a fact, but from my analysis, what happened this offseason was not a overnight decision. This was years and years in the making, because, like you said, they have one of, if not the best, front offices in baseball. And that's not just me guessing. They've polled other people in the business, and they, anonymous polls of people that work in the business, and the overwhelming answer was that the Dodgers are a top 3 organization in terms of developing players. So because they draft and develop so well, that allowed them to continue to be good and stack up their chips to where they can go so they could go all in. What we didn't realize is that them going all in is a lot higher than any other team going all in.
It's like chip bullying. It's like, oh yeah, all right, well let's y'all bring y'all's chips to the table. We'll basically match everyone with your combined spending. Outside, Mets, Phillies, Braves are up there spending pretty decently now, but the Yankees, the Mets, the Phillies, all of them are spending well. I mean, shoot, not that the Angels are spending a lot more money, but it seems like they're spending more money now that they don't have Shohei Ohtani in order to we're not as bad as what y'all think we are. They just signed Kenley Jansen. I don't know how big of a deal that will be, but we will see. Who do you think this year, Sam, is a surprise team, a team that we should watch out for, that's going to be a dark horse?
So this is going to sound weird to say this, but I feel like a lot of people have discounted the Astros just because last year they weren't really as dominant as they have been. But the moves that they made this offseason, their top 3 starters, their top 3 in the rotation, are already solid. They've got a solid rotation that are very underrated. And Framber Valdez, Hunter Brown, Ronel Blanco. And then they brought in the player from the trade that they made with the Cubs. That they brought in Isaac Paredes. He's an excellent utility guy. They brought in Kyle Tucker. No, sorry, they didn't bring in Kyle Tucker. They used to have Kyle Tucker. That was
he's a Cubby now.
But they had a solid off season that I don't think a lot of people really are giving enough credit to. they've had an excellent. They brought in Christian Walker to play first base, one of the most underrated first basemen in the league. I mean, their offense got way better than it was last year. They've got a solid rotation. I don't think that they're like top chances of winning the World Series by any means, but they still, they still got a chance, and I do think that they could potentially win their division again. And I feel like many people have discounted them, and they're still a very, very good team.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's, I don't know if a lot of people are excited about that per se, unless they're an Astros fan. But, I think that the whole 2017 is banging on the garbage cans, all that good stuff. I think that that's kind of fading into the background because of what the Dodgers have been doing, not only winning the World Series, but bringing in Shohei Ohtani prior to winning the World Series, and then the offseason that they've just had. Caveman Rick, what do you got?
I was just going to ask Sam about free agents that are left. You got any names that you think are going to be going any place that's of any significance before the season starts?
Alex Bregman is a big one that hasn't signed yet. So he definitely misjudged his market. I definitely assumed he would sign way quicker. And then Nick Pivetta, both of these guys, just proof of how detrimental to someone's career a qualifying offer could be. Both of them have a qualifying offer attached to them, and neither one of them have signed. Those are the two big names left. And at this point, it's kind of like you could just draw a name out of a hat and determine who's going to sign those guys other than, the ones that never spend, like the Pirates. But or Miami's definitely not going to sign them. But yeah, those are the two big ones left. As far as where they'll go, I've heard rumors of the Tigers, but those are truly just rumors. There's no real actual sources I've gotten for that.
Yeah, and there's the tie there with the Tigers with A.J. Hinch, so that could be something that's interesting. We've got a couple of listener questions for you right now. We're talking with Sam Peebles. He is the host and creator of the Braves Dugout podcast. When can we look forward to the first episode for the upcoming season if you haven't dropped that yet?
Yeah, season 6 will start the first week of March.
First week of March. All right, so that is not too far down the road as pitchers and catchers are going to be reporting for the Atlanta Braves tomorrow at February 12th. Chef Ross wants to know, can the Brewers catch lightning this year again? He says, talk him off the ledge. And they're going to be wearing the uke patch this year.
A part of me always wants to root for the Brewers just because in the past they've had some really fun players. Even before I was born, really fun players, and they just seem to be a team you want to root for. But, I mean, they've got a 1.4% chance of winning the World Series. The Cubs are a really strong team. They may be a wild card contender. That's probably the best chance that they have. I think they'll make the wild card, but as far as being a legitimate force, I just don't see it. Especially Christian Yelich is aging. They're arguably their best player. Willie Adames is not on the team anymore. Corbin Burns is gone for 2 years now. I mean, it's just they had their heyday in this past decade was probably that year when the Braves beat them in the Braves World Series year. So I think they're on their way to a rebuild.
There you go. So just don't back too far away from that ledge, Chef Ross, because you'll be back on it soon. But if the playoffs is what you're looking for, then there you go. Which I think if you're a baseball fan and your team makes it to the playoffs, or if they weren't expected to make the playoffs and they make a run late in the season, just to almost get to the playoffs, that's successful. But if your team makes the playoffs in a 162-game marathon, I think that you can count that as an success. Like for the Braves this year, you get to the NLCS, provided you stay healthy. Again, there's so many things that can unfold throughout the season, but you get to the NLCS, and I say, hey, that's a successful season. But then we're also talking about the NL East, where the juggernauts of the Phillies, who have been there in the roster that they possess. Then you look at the New York Metropolitans and adding Juan Soto, bringing back Pete Alonso. Francisco Lindor just had a heck of a season last year as well. So it's going to be very tough to come out on top in the NL East. Now, the other thing is that you have two punching handbags in the NL East with the Miami Marlins and with the Washington Nationals, who could be, don't you think, Sam, that the Nationals could be a little bit better with all the young talent that they have?
Yeah, that's probably one of the teams that I would disagree with the Picada rankings on. I think that I think if I remember properly, they were projected maybe 66 to 68 wins. I wouldn't be shocked if the Nationals had over 70 wins. Like, that would not shock me, especially considering their best player was injured all season last year. I mean, when your best bat is injured all year long, that tends to make the people that do projections forget that person existed. That's happened to the Braves a lot in the past. Washington, and like you said, they got a bunch of young players that are still growing. The Nationals, I don't think they're going to be a crazy good team, but I think they might surprise a few folks.
And Sam, we have Boston Tim, who wants to know your outlook on the Boston Red Sox this year.
Well, with Garrett Crochet coming in, it's going to be fun. I will say their offseason was quite disappointing. I projected Juan Soto to go to the Red Sox.
Oh, so how wild would have that been? Johnny Damon
yeah,
or Bruce.
Yeah, for sure. We did a free agent draft this year, and I said Juan Soto to the Red Sox for 13 years, and I was not anywhere close to that. So I was hoping for it. For all the signs to me were showing that the Red Sox were going to spend a ton of money this offseason. They just really didn't. I think that they'll probably be better than they were last year, but I would not get my hopes up that they're going to win their division or anything like that, especially with the Yankees and the Orioles playing like they have recently.
Chris Sale, 2024, had a heck of a season. Let's say no injuries in 2025. Does he replicate that season? I mean, staying within the realm of those numbers, or do you expect him to fall off and kind of come back to earth?
Well, here's the thing. His underlying metrics show that his season was not a fluke, right? Like, you look at all the numbers. Like, I don't know if you've ever been on StatCast, but red is good. Blue is bad. Almost everything's red. He was excellent. And in fact, his expected ERA was a 2.8. So over the entire season, which was good for the best 8% in Major League Baseball. So even if he, replicates that, he's going to be excellent. His ground ball rate was good, so even if he's not striking people out, he's still getting people to hit grounders, things like that. He's not walking it. He didn't walk hardly anybody. His strikeout rate was high. His walk rate was low. Everything that you want to look at in a pitcher he had. Last season was not a fluke.
There you go.
That being said, the bullpen is very weak. And so, the back end of the bullpen is very weak, so they won't be able to let him rest as much as they did. So we'll see.
Real quick, before I let you go, I know that I'm holding you on here, but what do you think of A.J. Minter signing with the daggum Mets? Like, to be a Brave for so long and you go over there to the Mets, it's almost like Tom Glavine-ish, which, not the same level, but it's like, come on, bro, you can't do that. There's 29 other teams you could go to, 28 other teams you can go to.
Yeah, now to be fair, he did get a bigger contract than many projected, so I understand why he went there, but yes, very Tom Glavine. Like, I'm a huge A.J. Minter fan. In fact, I've died on that hill a lot, talking about how he's a top 3 non-closer in baseball. And yeah, it was really sad to see him go.
Yeah, man. Well, it's sad for me to see you go. We'll chat with you, though, throughout the weeks coming up to the season, and then we got to get you on once a week throughout the season. And tell the people where they can see some of your articles as we do mosey on into baseball season.
Awesome, thank you. I write for Battery Power. That's the main one that I write for right now. You can just Google Sam Peebles Battery Power. You can find all my articles there. They're the top Braves blog on the internet. They do really good work over there. And then I have my podcast on the Braves Country Cooking Network called Braves Dugout Podcast.
There you go. Sam Peebles, ladies and gentlemen. What is it? Commissioner Chair 1 in Lynn Haven, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. Hey, man, the man wears so many hats and also serves our country as well. Sam, thank you so much for your time, my friend.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Go Braves.
Yep, go Braves. We'll have them on throughout the season. You can make this your home and the Braves Dugout Podcast your home to be listening to Sam Peebles. All right, we've got to dive into some trivia so you guys can win $25 to that boot store and $25 to Major Smokehouse, and that will be as soon as we get back. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. The number to call is 850-215-6290.
ESPN Northwest Florida, the Paul Feinbaum Show.
You're condescending, Paul. You talk down to people. You don't respect people. And until you start doing that, goodbye. I'm for calling back.
He's mad at me because he got into the Zoom and had everything working except the camera and the audio.
Paul Feinbaum, weeknights, 6 to 10 on ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida with your Tuesday's weather. The rest of the day, there will be a gentle breeze out of the south, some sun and 71. Mostly clouds tonight, about the same at 67. Tomorrow, partly cloudy and a moderate breeze right around 13 miles per hour with a high of 73. About the same at 71 Thursday, and we'll have a likelihood of thunderstorms and light showers. This forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for tuning into ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
At Brock Lawn and Pest Control, we're proud to be awarded the distinction of being Quality Pro certified.
Our technicians have passed rigorous training in eco-friendly application and prevention of pest treatments.
Part of the program is the practice of integrated pest management.
IPM's goal is to prevent pests from ever entering your home. It includes inspection, prevention, education, and, when necessary, application.
We're proud to be Quality Pro certified.
Brock Lawn and Pest Control, the standard and level of trust.
Reliable Copy Products is proud to be the exclusive dealer in Northwest Florida for Kyocera office equipment. Reliable Copy Products has been committed to providing professional, personalized service for the last 35 years. They understand that the right equipment does not always fall within today's budget requirements, so they offer several options for the equipment you need today for the growth you expect tomorrow. Call James Smothers at 784-6601, 784-6601. Reliable Copy Products on Harrison Avenue, just north of Bay High School.
They're number one in the men's room.
I hope this place comes with toilet paper.
The Afternoon Underdogs.
Oh, geez, this is going to be a photo finish.
On ESPN Northwest Florida.
That was Sam Peebles, ladies and gentlemen, getting us ready for spring training. He will always take your questions right here live on the air with us on the Afternoon Underdogs. Our trivia question for you guys this afternoon as you're tuned into the Afternoon Underdogs. Don't forget here on ESPN Northwest Florida that we are your home for Auburn Tiger basketball, and they're going to be taking on the Vanderbilt Commodores tonight at 6 p.m. right after the Afternoon Underdogs. So keep it locked in. I'm David Hayes along with Tyler Bishop and Caveman Rick. And Traffic Jam and Trivia, our question for today is, I've been throwing out a lot of softballs. This one's kind of a softball. Unless you don't watch hockey, then you might not know this one. What bizarre item do Detroit Red Wing fans throw on the ice for good luck? What bizarre item do Detroit Red Wing fans throw on the ice for good luck? I've got multiple choice for you, so call in right now, 850-215-6290. If you get the correct answer, you're going to win $25 to not the, but that boot store, and $25 to Major's Smokehouse. So $25 to that boot store and $25 to Major Smokehouse, plus, as always, a 12-pack of Buffalo Rock. What item do the Detroit Red Wings fans throw on the ice for good luck? Do you have, just take a guess. It's an animal.
It's an animal?
Yeah.
Dang.
Could be a rubberized animal. Could be a... There's so many. Don't write it down. Just put them on the air. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. Who do we have here?
This is Paul Ritchie.
Paul Ritchie. What's going on, my man? You a hockey fan?
A little bit. Not too much, but...
Do you have a team? Who's your team in the world of hockey?
It'd be the Lightning, Tampa Bay Lightning.
Hey, there we go, Tampa Bay Lightning. Let's go. Trying to make that playoff push here. Been getting a lot of great defense, and then the offense is starting to pick up along the way as well. Do you know what bizarre item the Red Wing fans throw on the ice for good luck? I'll give you multiple choice here. Is it A, a fish, B, an octopus, C, a squid, or D, a rubber chicken?
Octopus.
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
Ding, ding, ding. You are correct. I try to throw you off.
Does anybody know why it's an octopus?
Why is it? Caveman Rick, give us the background
Okay,
there.
so back in the day when this originally started, there was only 2 rounds in the playoffs. You had to have 8 wins to win the Stanley Cup. 8 legs on an octopus, 8 wins.
Right.
There you go.
I like it.
All right, well, there you go. Well, Paul, just hang on the line real quick, and Caveman Rick is going to grab some info from you, all right?
All right, sounds great.
All right. Christopher Multicante says Cam Ward is coming to save the NFL. What do you think there? Do you think Cam Ward is he thinks that he'll be drafted number 1 overall by the Titans? As a Titans fan, look, if they stay at number 1 and they draft a quarterback, which I would prefer, is there any offensive lineman that you can take number 1 overall? I don't know if there's a guy this year that you can do that with. Is Abdul Carter really like a guy who was injured in the most important stage of the season? Is he worth the number 1 pick? Now, if you go quarterback, I just have to trust and believe that I can't even do that because you haven't you gave me Will Levis at the start of round 2. You gave me Malik Willis in the middle of round 3, and it just hasn't worked out yet. But do you think Cam Ward, let's say he goes to the Titans, does he change that team in the first year?
I want to say no. And I don't know if he's a transformative quarterback like that. I'm not saying he's not. I don't pretend to be a quarterback evaluator, NFL scout by any means. But I would probably say the same about Jaden Daniels going into this year. And we saw what he did in Washington, Offensive Rookie of the Year. Took them to the NFC Championship game. So maybe Cam Ward is that guy. But I think the Redskins or the Commanders probably had a better roster around. I mean, I know nobody expected them to be a playoff team, but I think they still had some of the pieces. They had Terry McLaurin. I know the Titans have Ridley. I would say probably going into it, the Commanders had a better roster when they drafted Jaden Daniels last year. I know they're the number 2 overall pick, but I just don't know if Cam Ward is that guy. He definitely could be, but I think if you're looking at it, though, like, is there a quarterback? I'm a big college football fan, and I don't know if there's a quarterback coming out in the next year or 2 that makes me like, okay, this is the guy we can hold off for. We've seen Trevor Lawrence kind of be that guy, even though I don't think he's kind of quite proven it in the NFL. I don't think anybody was expecting that of Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, even Lamar Jackson to an extent. Joe Burrow, I think but he only became that guy in 2019. It was a 1-year wonder, and people were kind of questioning if that was going to translate long term. So I guess it's hard to say that any year that there's a guy like that waiting out there, but at a certain point, you got to trust your GM, your scouts. If they say, hey, this guy's a franchise quarterback, you take those guys when you get the opportunity. But I feel like if you're the Titans, you're kind of wasting that cheap window of the rookie contract. I don't think they're a Super Bowl. I don't think they're a quarterback away from a Super Bowl contending team. And at that point,
I don't think they are either.
And if it's going to take you 3 years to build, and then you get kind of in that 1-year window with the quarterback on a rookie contract, now he's signing a $60 million contract at that point, or $60 million a year contract at that point, eating into your other stuff. I can never blame a team for taking a shot at a quarterback because we've seen in the NFL, if you don't have a quarterback, you're dead in the water. So you're basically playing for nothing this year if you don't have a quarterback. But are the Titans going to be playing for something with a quarterback? Maybe. But, maybe Cam Ward's that guy. I'm not convinced. And I don't think – it ever felt like he made some great plays at Miami. Obviously had some great finishes there. But they were such a good team that struggled a lot this year. And I feel like they probably shouldn't have struggled as much if Cam Ward was that guy that elevated the guys around him as much as you kind of need to be that guy in the NFL. But, of course, Jaden Daniels went, 9-3 with LSU with 2 first-round wide receivers and whatever else. So, we'll see. But I think the Titans are going to go quarterback. I hope they don't because I've got some bets on some other stuff. But I think they're going to just because I think you have to have a quarterback.
I want them to trade. I want them to trade, and I want them to trade out of it. But again, because of who the quarterbacks are, and it's not one of those generational talents, which doesn't mean anything. Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be a generational talent, and he's got the same numbers essentially as Mac Jones does. I would like to see him trade out. If they don't. And at first, I wanted Shadur Sanders. Nothing against Cam Ward. I like Cam Ward, but I thought that Shadur Sanders with the legacy and all of that stuff would be more fun. If I can't count on either one of these guys, it would be more fun, right? And both of them played a large role in the success that their teams had. I would say that from some of the videos that I've seen, they both have decent footwork. They're both decently mobile. Cam Ward, I would say, is more so mobile, and I would say Cam Ward has more zip on his ball, which is very important in the NFL. Will Levis has got a very powerful arm. He's got zip on his ball as well. The problem is he zips it in the most inconspicuous of places, the wrong places, and to the wrong team. I mean, he dismantled the Titans season within the first 4 games of the season just because it was like, yeah, we can't even trust this guy. We got to go get Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. No offense to you, Mason Rudolph, but my goodness.
Yeah.
That was...
Yeah, I really appreciate Will Levis being Will Levis because I was so convinced going into the draft, 2-3 years ago, I was like, Will Levis is not an NFL quarterback. I've watched this guy, I just don't see it. I've got to be missing something these guys are seeing. He ended up, they were talking about him going at number 4 if Anthony Richardson wasn't available to the Colts.
And he fell out of the first round and had an embarrassing night.
Early second round. And I mean, he's had some moments. Don't get me wrong. He's had some moments like, okay, this guy maybe, but then he's got moments where it's like, this guy probably shouldn't be on a roster at all.
Yeah.
And I appreciate him making me feel better about my beliefs when it comes to scouting quarterbacks to a small extent.
A lot of it's where you go and if you have time to sit and learn. And
shoot, Kentucky, they've got Zach Calzada coming in. I believe he was Texas A&M, or what was he at Auburn then A&M or A&M then Auburn?
Because he was the quarterback that beat Bama, the Jimbo Fisher, Jimbo Fisher A&M team that beat Bama. What was it, 2021?
It was 2 years ago. Yeah.
Or
was it 3 years ago?
I think it was 2021. Because he was the first Saban assistant to beat him, and then Kirby ended up beating him.
So he played for A&M, then Auburn, then last year he was over where Cam Ward got his start at. Incarnate Word, yeah. So interesting stuff there.
He's collecting the tracksuits, man.
Yeah.
The portal, man, it's crazy seeing these guys going to 3, 4, 5 different schools now, and it's just a blast from the past, like a name I didn't even know was still in college football.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's one of those things. I think we get blast from the past all the time in college football just because of how the transfer portal works, and they go somewhere that you don't really hear a lot about people for a while, and then they come back, you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't know that you were still playing collegiate football.
Like TJ Finley. I think he's on his 6th.
Yeah, where's he going now? He was at Western Kentucky last year. I think he's back to a bigger name university going in this year.
I think this is literally his 6th school.
TJ Finley, Detroit. I really don't know where he's at, but we're going to tell you when we get back, and then we're going to get into Tyler's takeaways here. He's our college football prognosticator for ESPN Northwest Florida. You're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida, and we are the Afternoon Underdogs, hour number 2, with Tyler's takes coming up next.
ESPN Northwest Florida, the Afternoon Underdogs.
Eagles win because?
Rage. Lots of rage. With all the scenarios surrounding the Chiefs right now, what better way to put a team out than to win because you're fueled by rage and just blind fury? I would love to absolutely see it happen. I mean, you guys are making great points, but I just want to talk mental game.
4 to 6 weekdays. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida with your Tuesday's weather. The rest of the day, there will be a gentle breeze out of the south, some sun and 71. Mostly clouds tonight, about the same at 67. Tomorrow, partly cloudy and a moderate breeze right around 13 miles per hour with a high of 73. About the same at 71 Thursday, and we'll have a likelihood of thunderstorms and light showers. This forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for tuning into ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Ellis Agency Insurance has been serving Panama City and Bay County for years. They offer a full line of affordable insurance coverage of all types. Many people are attracted to Ellis Agency Insurance because of their friendly, knowledgeable staff. Call independent agent Johnny Ellis for a true comparison of your personal or business insurance. Ellis Agency Insurance at the Old Cullen Insurance location, 1134 Harrison Avenue, across from Dandy Donuts and Deli. Call 763-1627.
WPLQ Port St. Joe, WGSX Lynn Haven, powered by Panama City Toyota.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
Hi folks, I'm Tracy from Tracy's Fine Jewelry. Love is in the air at Tracy's Fine Jewelry, and what better way to celebrate love than with a beautiful piece of jewelry? Our Valentine collection combines the most popular trends and top sellers with the largest selection at the best prices. From exquisite fine jewelry to our most trendy and affordable sterling silver pieces, we're sure to have the perfect gift to melt her heart. Folks have trusted us for 50 years to make their Valentine sparkle. This year, make it sparkle even more with a gift from Tracy's Fine Jewelry.
Pound the like and crush the subscribe. Follow us on social media for the latest sports news, scores, and updates. Keeping you in the game. Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs, ESPN Northwest Florida.
It's hour number 2. You're in the doghouse with the Afternoon Underdogs. I'm David Hayes along with Tyler Bishop and Caveman Rick, and we are the Afternoon Underdogs, and this is 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida here in Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. We're the home for the Coach James Hale Show in the morning, weekdays from 7 to 9. Then you can take the Inside Drive with Ryan Mulvey and Jay Henley weekdays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Don't forget about Auburn and Vanderbilt. Coverage starts right here after the Afternoon Underdogs at 6 p.m. All right, so we were talking about TJ Finley. Only 22 years old, we found out during the break.
He'll be 23 going into the season, but, I mean, for a guy going to his 6th year of college football, like, he was 17 when he got to LSU, which is fairly impressive, you know.
Yeah.
I always kind of feel for some of those guys because when they do get there young, it does seem like sometimes maybe they kind of peaked a little early.
Yeah.
But like I said, I almost expected him to be like 24, 25, kind of, you know, more the Stetson Bennett or the Michael Penix type of guy. But
not quite the Chris Winkie type.
Not quite the Chris. Well, he got to Florida State.
I think he was 28, right? Yeah.
I think he was like 26 or 27 when he got to Florida State after playing some baseball. But yeah, not quite. And then Brandon Whedon as well.
Yeah, Brandon Whedon.
Same kind of guy there.
No doubt.
Weed man.
He's at Tulane. I don't think we mentioned that.
Yeah,
he did end up at Tulane this year.
Right, I was going to say he's not at Troy. He is at Tulane. I knew that it was one of those, kind of southern schools that, but Tulane used to be in the SEC back in the
40s or whatever.
You know what? It
they were a
doesn't
founding
matter.
member, I believe.
Yeah.
They've got more SEC championships than, I think, Ole Miss, than Mississippi State.
I've been trying to get the job over there at Sewanee, get the head coaching job, and bring them back up to Division I.
Let's go.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about Antonio Brown's latest award that he's giving out.
Yeah, that's on you, man.
No, we're not going to. But he is on the latest podcast with Theo Vaughn, which I was listening to a little bit of that today.
Man, he was live tweeting during the Super Bowl, and that man is just, golly, it's hilarious. Like,
could you imagine I don't even need a podcast. I don't need a consistent show. Just give me 1 hour of a sit-down conversation with Jameis Winston and Antonio Brown called Good and Bad CTE.
Oh, man. Did you imagine them doing like a Manning cast of one game? Just like,
you wouldn't even be able to watch the game.
Yeah. You would have no idea what's going on the field.
And Jameis would be like, hey, look here, you see this right here? Like, he's eating that W right there. And then Antonio Brown would be like, man, just take the pads off. Let's go outside.
Oh, man.
That would be some good stuff right there. All right, let's get into hour number 2 here with Tyler's takes. How big was that win, the Super Bowl win? We talked about Jalen Hurts and all that he's been through, all that he's accomplished in his career. But, when he won the national championship with Alabama, he was the starting quarterback for the first half. And then Nick Saban made the decision to go with Tua Tagovailoa. Now he is the first SEC player to win the Super Bowl MVP since Eli Manning.
I've got a problem with that.
Okay.
Why is he considered an SEC player?
Because Oklahoma's in the SEC now.
But Von Miller was also an MVP, and Texas A&M is now in the SEC. So it would have been since Von Miller then.
Yeah.
Because Von Miller was at A&M before they made the SEC.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. Well, I'm going to get on to the guy who, let's see, I believe I got this from Saturday Down South.
Like,
so
I get there's the whole debate, like, is Hurts a Bama guy or Oklahoma guy?
He's in Oklahoma. He is drafted out of Oklahoma. Okay. He's got Alabama ties. You ask him, he will say Alabama, Oklahoma. Yeah. He'll say both of them, and doesn't matter in what order, he will say both of them. He always has, and that's just the type of guy, stand-up guy that he is. But he's drafted out of Oklahoma, you know. And so I'm right there with you on that point. Though.
I mean, it's obviously it doesn't really matter. I was just more like, just wanted to say like, hey, why is one considered and one's not? Like,
that's a great point. What if we said first SEC quarterback to win Super Bowl MVP since Eli Manning?
There you go.
Boom, we fixed it real quick. But how big was that win for him? A lot of the times we see these guys get to the Super Bowl and they never make their way back. He was back within 2 years, and then not only do they win the Super Bowl, but they win in I mean, what was the most recent dominating Super Bowl victory? Was it the Broncos over?
I mean, I can't remember what the final score ended up being, but the Bucs Chiefs game, Super Bowl was fairly similar in the way that the defensive, and if you go back and watch both games, it was so similar in the fact that the Chiefs offensive line. I know going into the Bucs Super Bowl, they were missing, I think, both their tackles, or at least one of their starting tackles going into the game.
It was 31-9.
Yeah, so I mean, but it was kind of similar.
22 points, there was 18 points. So yeah, that's actually more.
I mean, I know the Chiefs scored the late touchdown.
Take that, caveman Rick.
But I mean, watching those games, like it was kind of. I think I sent in our group chat like midway through the second quarter. I think it was even before the DeJean pick six when it was a 10-point game. I was like, man, this looks a lot like the Bucs game.
Yeah,
like it was just the offensive line for Kansas City had no answer for that front seven of really just the front four.
Yeah, we didn't even
Philly
have
just
blitz.
didn't blitz a single time. They got a 50% pressure, 48% pressure rate, whatever it was.
Yeah.
There was
That's
zero
insane.
blitzes.
That's insane. Like, I mean, there was just nothing. You can't do anything without any sort of protection, no matter how good Patrick Mahomes is. And that's what we've seen. We've seen it twice now on the biggest stage. And what did we see? Kansas City that very next draft, they went and got Creed Humphrey. They went and got Trey Smith. They bolstered that offensive line. I think they signed I think they signed Trent Brown that year at left tackle. So I mean, we've kind of seen them do this.
Orlando Brown.
Yeah, Orlando Brown. Sorry. So we've seen them, have this happen, go out and make the necessary moves and make it back a couple years later. But no, for Jalen Hurts, obviously big for him. If he had gone and lost again, it just kind of gets to the point like how many times do you get there and not win before you start seeing a kind of a pattern? And I mean, very few quarterbacks in NFL history, like you were talking, to lose the first one and get back.
Yeah.
So for him to kind of get that monkey off his back, Sirianni probably helped.
He was the first to have a repeat and then and actually win.
I mean, it's funny because, Sirianni was a little bit like Ryan Day in the extent that, it seemed like he had a lot of success, but there was people that were questioning how safe his job was.
Yeah.
And,
especially after last year because of how they started.
And coordinators and stuff, too.
I get it. I just think the similars from, a fan perspective.
Yeah.
I think they were a similar situation. It's funny that they both won the title this year.
Yeah.
A little ironic there, but, it's a big for Philly, I'm sure, obviously for Caveman Rick. I mean, it's kind of amazing for
I would say that the after party, the celebration there in Philly, was more exciting to watch than what the Super Bowl actually was. Unless you're an Eagles fan, but we were watching it on the news afterwards, and it was like we watched celebrations on the streets for like an hour and a half. Seriously.
And now Howie Roseman, his second Super Bowl team with a second coach, a whole new quarterback. You know what I'm saying? It's not like two coaches, but it's a Tom Brady or a Peyton Manning type deal, brand new schemes almost all together. And so just really impressive to see what he has been able to do as a GM. 2
Super Bowls in 7 years.
Yeah, been to 3, won 2. The guy is just considered, he's got to be one of the top 2 or 3 GMs in the league right now. And the guy just seems to make common sense moves. And I feel like people make football so much more difficult than it needs to be. I feel like that's where Bill Belichick really excelled for the longest time. Like, he just did smart things. Like, he had a little bit of common sense, and I feel like that carried him for so much. And, we're kind of seeing the same thing with Howie Roseman. Obviously, completely different situation with Tom Brady.
He just knows how to pray and, fleece other teams, make the right move, steal players for, on the cheap, and, bring them over and utilize them and make the best of them on our squad, with the people around, And
it just feels like the last few years we've seen guys fall in the draft for whatever reason, like a Jalen Carter. He falls to them at 9. Nolan Smith falls to them at 30. Even Quinton Mitchell this year, everybody thought he may have been a top 10 guy, falls to them in the mid, 22 or something like that. Cooper DeJean was talking about being a first, maybe a late first round guy, falls to them in late, early second round. It just kind of seems like, I feel like the Ravens did that for a while, where they just kept getting guys that fall in the draft.
Getting the right guy.
Just assimilating a ton of talent.
Couple of texts that we've got from Lynn Haven Rob is his degree from Alabama. I do believe that Jalen Hurts' degree is from Alabama, but I also think that he might have gotten a piece of paper from Oklahoma as well, a certain degree from Oklahoma as well. I can't, but I do know that he did graduate from Alabama and then transferred to Oklahoma. I don't know.
Mostly just giving Dave a hard. I really don't care if
No. I'm just reading off text here. I'm reading off text here. Jim Kelly got to the Super Bowl. He did get back. Jim Kelly did, but he never won. He was there 4 times. Jalen Hurts is not the first quarterback to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And lose and then get back and win. That was John Elway, who was actually in 3 Super Bowls, I believe, before he lost the first 3.
It was the same team against the same team is what I was talking about.
Okay, he's the first one.
Eli beating, the Patriots and Tom Brady twice, and so.
Yeah, but still, that's pretty daggum impressive there for Jalen Hurts, and obviously John Elway had a very impressive career, and you really feel bad for Jim Kelly getting there 4 years in a row and not being able to get that done.
Foles trolling Tom Brady too after the Super Bowl.
I don't even know if he was trolling Tom Brady as much as giving him his. I think Tom Brady was more happy that the Eagles won than maybe.
Well, there's a meme going around.
I think there's part of him that was kind of relieved that Mahomes didn't.
Yeah.
There's that Office meme, that dude in the office, like looking through the blinds.
Yeah.
Saying that's like,
Or no, that would probably
Tom
be
Brady
Jim.
watching Patrick Mahomes, like, fail in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
It was either Jim or Dwight who
I
did that
never
in
watched
the
the
office,
show.
but
I
it's
just
a
know it's
great
from
show.
there.
Very hilarious. Well, with the GOAT conversation, obviously, even if had Patrick Mahomes won this Super Bowl, that doesn't put him at GOAT status, but it keeps the GOAT conversation alive and well. I think a lot of people have discounted it, but I'm not in that realm. I don't think that the GOAT conversation has stopped just because he lost this Super Bowl. I think that it's made it more interesting now. I think that Mahomes has more work to get done, because had he won this one, what makes it interesting, or what would make it, where a lot of people would say he is the GOAT, which I would still discount, is the fact that, well, Tom Brady never won 3 in a row, which, we might not ever see in our lifetime a team win 3 Super Bowls in a row. But how do you feel about the GOAT conversation and where we're at now after the loss for the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes?
I'll say if they had pulled it off, I think Mahomes would have had a lot better argument than some people would have thought. I mean, four Super Bowls in a 6-year span at that point. The most Super Bowls for a guy under 30, first three-peat ever. Obviously there is some projection assuming he stays pretty good the rest of his career. But I'm also one of those guys, like, does he have to have more Super Bowls than Tom Brady to be considered the GOAT?
There's something to longevity, though, too.
There is something to longevity. But is the greatest of all time the guy who was would you say Mahomes at his peak is better than Brady? Is it a peak thing? Is it the greatest career? Is it, because, is Randy Moss at his peak better than Jerry Rice? I'm not saying he's more productive. But who do you think is a bigger? You know what I'm saying? When you start getting these GOAT discussions,
if you had to take,
obviously there is no right answer in my opinion. But
there is no, and that's the best part about these conversations.
But what is your GOAT? Is it the best career? Obviously, that's Tom Brady, and it's going to be hard for anybody to match. But could you argue that maybe at his peak, and as Patrick Mahomes hit his peak, I don't know. But is his peak higher than Tom Brady's?
I still say Joe Montana, but that's me.
But again, Joe Montana doesn't have many Super Bowls, so now it's
but he's
not just about Super
undefeated.
Bowls.
He has no interceptions.
There you go.
I was the guy until the 28-3. Until the 28-3 when the Patriots came back for beating the Atlanta Falcons. I never watched Joe Montana like outside of YouTube and documentaries and stuff like that. But I always said the same thing. Where he's got 4 Super Bowls, he's undefeated in the Super Bowl, and he's never thrown an interception. Then after that, I was like, all right, I'm tired. That's just not how I look at it anymore. It's Tom Brady, and obviously it still is Tom Brady. But I think that because of how young Patrick Mahomes is, he's got
what 8-10 more years if he really wants to, maybe 12.
Really? Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? And he got started at a pretty decently young age, and his health has always kind of been there as well. It's really just about keeping those teams around him, and it's a tough sport and all sports, all professional sports, it's tough to get to the pinnacle, to get to the top of your sport. There's no doubt about that. But this is not even done.
No, anybody who thinks he still isn't on the path. He's still on the path. I think Tom Brady was 3-2 in his first 5 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Obviously none of that matters going forward. It really will come down to Andy Reid. How long is he around? Spagnuolo.
Let's say defense. They both end up with 7, Brady and Mahomes.
I'd have no problem. I would.
Which direction would you go? Because we got Professor Plum here. Brady won 3 of 4, I guess, in his first
5 or 6 years, I guess.
But I thought he won 1, and then it was a while before they got back. And then, in his last 12 years, they really dominated. But anyways, he is 1-0 against Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl.
That's fair. If they both end with 7, then I would probably give the edge to Mahomes just because I think physically he's more talented.
Yeah.
There's something to be said for Brady going to a completely different franchise and winning one.
Yeah.
But if Mahomes never gets that opportunity, who's to say he couldn't have? Obviously not everybody can do it, but we saw Stafford do it.
Yeah.
So whatever. But I think at that point, the off-script stuff we've seen Mahomes do would probably give him the edge for me as like if I was having to pick one player in their prime to be my quarterback. I'm taking that. But, I mean, like I said, I have no argument for now that Tom Brady's still the GOAT. I think like I said, I think the three-peat, four Super Bowls in 6 years gives Mahomes a better argument earlier than most people would have given credit for. But he's still, like I said, he's still got over a decade of playing.
But like say he goes out next season and he has some career-ending injury. And he doesn't have that longevity. It'll be a what-if thing. And, you know what I'm saying?
That's a whole...
Well, I mean, some people might argue the run that he had might make him the greatest because he would one of like 66% of the years that he played, he won a Super Bowl and blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, there might be an argument there to be said.
There's always... And I mean, I think that I saw that the Chiefs have had the most wins in a 7-year span of any team in NFL history, or 4-year span, whatever it was. You know, his worst season as a starter is an AFC Championship loss. Like the run they have been on since Mahomes has taken over as a full-time starter is as impressive as probably anything we've seen in the NFL. I mean, I'm sure Brady was probably up there with the Patriots on AFC Championship consecutive appearances and everything. So like at that point, you're really kind of splitting hairs.
Well,
like
really,
Tom Brady
between Brady and Mahomes and I guess you would have to add Manning in there. Like when was the last time that we had an AFC Championship without those guys?
I mean,
Ben Roethlisberger?
I mean, it was probably like a Big Ben versus somebody like. But I mean, Joe Flacco was, the Baltimore Ravens made the Super Bowl at one point. But I mean, they still may have beaten the Patriots to get there. I'd have to go back and look at it. But I mean, it's just insane that in 8 seasons or whatever it is as a starter, Patrick Mahomes' worst season is losing in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah.
Like, oh no,
I don't know. That might be an indictment on the AFC.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah, the tougher conference. Like, which everyone is saying that it's the tougher and I'm not taking away from the Eagles. I'm just saying that when when we get into these preseason talks, like Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow.
You're just talking quarterbacks. So what about the rest of the roster, defense, and special teams, and like in the trenches, and you know what I mean? There's more to it than just quarterbacking.
Okay, so let's go to just the championship games. Can you remind me what the score was between you guys and the Commanders?
55 to...
Right. Like, y'all ran through y'all's playoff.
Right. So
okay, and then you ran through the eventual champs. Like, y'all were just the best team in the league this year, right? And there was a big chip on your shoulder. For me, I don't think that I really don't even think it's particularly close, because what do we all acknowledge as the most important position on the field?
Quarterback. But I mean, if you manhandle the teams you're playing, like, you know what I'm saying?
No, I'm just saying that's why I consider the AFC to be a stronger conference, at least where we're at right now, than the NFC. Not taking it away from, but like, all right, so let's go. Jalen Hurts is the best quarterback in the NFC?
Maybe.
Is that fair to say?
I guess so right now, yeah.
Okay, all right, so then who would be number 2? Right, I mean, the fact that we're having to think, right? Like, when we would go to the AFC, it's bam, right down the list, and you still got others that this guy, that guy. Like, what, do we even go to say that the offensive rookie of the year is the second best quarterback in the NFC? That might be somewhat disrespectful, but I think it's respectful to him. You got Baker Mayfield over there. Jared Goff, I guess you could throw his name in a hat, right? Matt Stafford's about the same. Okay, like, again, and I'm not disagreeing with you that, like, the trenches and when we take the whole teams as a whole, but I think that the AFC is definitely the tougher conference where we're at right now.
I'd probably argue, to Rick's point, the 2 best rosters in the NFL may be in the NFC. I think the Lions and the Eagles,
provided that they were healthy.
Going into the season, like, they may have been the 2 most talented rosters.
Okay.
But I think the depth in the AFC, partially because of quarterback play, partially I think there's just more better. I mean, you do have the Chiefs, you do have the Ravens, you do have the Bills. I think you have some of these teams that are probably as a whole, what I'm saying, like maybe 1 and 2 is the NFC, but maybe like the next 4 or 5 is more likely AFC. And then you maybe get, then you start getting kind of back and forth. And again, to that point, also the quarterbacks are a little bit better. So even if the roster is a little bit worse, because I saw a list saying that the Chiefs had the best roster in the NFL. I don't think anybody believed that. It's just they're kind of banking on Patrick Mahomes making up the difference.
AFC might just be top heavy, and then NFC maybe like across the board, maybe a little bit more like even. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that would kind of go. I would say that the NFC was a little bit more top heavy, but again, it's really hard to really substantiate any of these claims, right? Like, I'm basically just going off of the quarterback.
Yeah, that's what we do.
I think that the Eagles but I think anyone in sports radio, how are you going to substantiate? How are you going to prove your claim when it's, what, are we having these teams play over and over and over again? No, you really get one shot unless they're in your division, and then you play them twice a year, and still that doesn't, necessarily prove that you're 100% without a doubt the better team. We just have to go off of whoever won on the field that day is the better team, right? Like, is anyone going to say that Vanderbilt, let's just go to Vanderbilt and Alabama. Is anyone going to say that Vanderbilt was a better team last year than Alabama?
No, but they were on that Saturday.
But they won. But they won exactly, and that's kind of just like if someone were to sit there and say Vanderbilt's better than Alabama, no one would take them serious. But at the end of the day, Vanderbilt won, and they were the better team, like you just mentioned. They were the better team that Saturday, and there's so many of those and that's the beauty of sports is it doesn't really matter.
There would be no
such
thing as upsets of the best team always won.
Exactly, and it would be pointless to play the games. And honestly, if you played the Super Bowl again, does anyone believe that it would be that kind of a blowout again?
I think so.
I tend to think maybe.
Yeah?
I mean, that defense and what they did to Mahomes,
what we saw was no fluke.
No, I'm not saying that it's a fluke.
I know, but I'm just saying, I think the line of scrimmage discrepancy was so vast, I don't think there's change.
You play that game 10 times, we win 7 or 8 of them. Easy.
Based on
I'll go 60-40, 6-4.
I kind of agree with Kate. I think I would not have guessed it going into the. I would have thought it was probably closer to a 50.
We would have had to beat ourselves, basically.
But the way that defensive line played, assuming they got 80% of that effort in every single one of those 10 games, the Chiefs offensive line had nothing.
Yeah.
And maybe if you're talking about playing them 10 consecutive times and Andy Reid gets to learn from them every single time, maybe he does, mix some stuff in. But if you're talking like blank slates and we're simming it on Madden 10 times, the way that defensive line played, man, it was just, like I said, the Chiefs offense was just impotent. They had nothing.
But this is what we're so good at doing in the world of sports as well, is overreacting to Jeremiah Trotter after the game, standing there with Jeremiah Trotter Jr. They didn't expect this, and that's kind of my thing is all right, now we saw it happen like that. And I think for me, what makes it more believable, the 7 or 8, if you will, that's why I'm hesitant on it, saying 6-4, because I don't want to overreact. What makes it more believable is every round of the playoffs, that's what the Eagles did, was blow their opponent out to smithereens, essentially. And so, yes, that's believable for me. However, on the other side of it is, the Chiefs were not as good as what we're used to them being, but let's say that if the Cooper DeJean interception doesn't happen, right? Let's say that the Chiefs go down and score at 10-7.
Well,
right, it's all what ifs. It's 100% what ifs. But now the momentum, because that's such a huge integral part of the game, is which direction the momentum is heading. But when Cooper DeJean got that pick 6, the momentum was all the way times 2 on the side of the Philadelphia Eagles at that point. And the momentum even heading into that drive for the Eagles was huge.
Yeah. I will say, the refs obviously clearly had nothing to do with the outcome of the game, right? The game was won on the line.
But they could have just done that.
Well, I'm saying, if the roles were reversed, say Kansas City wins the game the way Philadelphia did, I think there's a lot of calls in that game that Philadelphia did and did not get. That if Kansas City had won similarly with the same calls, people today would be we would still be hearing it. Oh yeah, of course Kansas City won. Look at some of the calls they got. Yeah. Look at some of the calls that weren't called on them. Again, I've never once said that the refs have won or lost any game. Right. I don't think, and I'm not saying that's the reason why Philadelphia won. But there are some of those calls I can't believe they called that on Kansas City. And it had been called the other way. Granted, it had nothing to do with the outcome of the game.
No,
people would still be complaining about it today, though.
And I think I heard DeAndre Hopkins complaining about some of the calls. Dude,
catch the ball, dude.
Well, yeah. Yes, I think he was 1 of 2 on his targets. But the other thing that I will say is, the referees they had no play in how that.
It had nothing.
18 points, and really all of the Chiefs' points were garbage time points.
Yeah.
By the time that they scored the first touchdown, 24-0.
And we had,
I think it was 34. Wasn't it 34-0?
Yeah, and we had backups playing the last 10 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying it had anything to do with it. I just think if the roles were reversed, Kansas City wins 40-22 or whatever, but the calls were the same, people would still be complaining about it, even though it had absolutely nothing to do with the game.
Yeah, it's still wild, and Philadelphia absolutely deserved every single bit of that. There's no doubt. But Now, do they repeat? We'll find out in 2025. It's only just forever and a day away at this point. All right, we're going to talk some hot seat coaches. We're going to talk Ryan Grubb. Does he help right the ship for Alabama and Kalen DeBoer? We're going to talk about some of the new rule proposals, or at least one rule proposal here in college football with our college football prognosticator, Tyler Bishop. You're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida, riding with the Afternoon Underdogs.
The new app from 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida is designed specifically for sports fanatics like you. The sports content you demand is always on. Live stream our national and local sports talk anywhere you go. Reach us on all social media. You can also be a part of the show. Call and text into our studios. Plus, up-to-the-minute weather and traffic maps. The new app from 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida is available at the Apple Store and Google Play.
Good evening. This is Joanna with your weather forecast from ESPN Northwest Florida on this Tuesday. Slightly foggy and mostly cloudy tonight with a wind at 11 miles per hour out of the south and a low of 67. Tomorrow morning, look for slight fog and some clouds with a temperature near 73. The afternoon and evening, a high around 73 and a mixture of some sun and very light rain. This weather forecast is brought to you by Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Thank you for tuning into ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Whether you're an experienced investor or first-time buyer, Beach House will provide you with top-notch service to guide you through every step of the process. We make the real estate process fun and easy through effective marketing, strategic advertising, and always a client-focused experience. From single-family homes to full-scale developments, Beach House Sales Development has you covered. Check them out at beachhousesalesfl.com or give them a call at 850-919-3500.
You've got so many chances to win big on Hard Rock Bet. Even a small bet can bring in that serious cash. All you need is $1 and a dream.
Unbelievable! They've hit the parlay. Let's go!
Big payouts for every kind of player.
Hard Rock Bet. Roll with us.
Get up to $100 back if your first bet doesn't win. Payable and bonus bet up to $100, not a cash offer. Offered by the Seminole Tribe of Florida. Must be 21 plus and physically present in Florida to wager. Terms and conditions apply. Concerned about gambling? Please call 1-888-ADMIT-IT.
Hi, this is Orlando Magic guard Jalen Suggs. Listen for select Orlando Magic games right here on ESPN Northwest Florida. Now back to my boy David Hayes and the Afternoon Underdogs.
Welcome back. We're right on the edge of the Gulf of America here in Panama City. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. I'm David Hayes along with Tyler Bishop. Caveman Rick, you're listening to 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida, 104.3 Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. You can call or text us 850-215-6290. I know when Ryan Mulvey started off the show, they were talking about how on Google Maps the Gulf of America changed, or the Gulf of Mexico was changed to the Gulf of America. And now on your iPhone apps or your Apple Maps.
So
as well.
Next, we're going to change New Mexico and make that another state name?
Old America.
There you go.
The Alamo.
The Alamo. There you go. Remember, they just changed the state name to Remember the Alamo.
Hey, our buddy Richard
I'll take
Head.
things that are important for $5,000.
Our buddy Richard Head, Johnny Yankee Seeds down there at the Alamo. Yeah, I told him to go down to the basement of the Alamo and see if you can find Pee Wee Herman's bicycle.
There you go. It's his 40th birthday tomorrow, I believe. So, and shout out to Coach Glenn Manley. It was his birthday yesterday. Courtney Mims' birthday. Longtime sportscaster here for Channel 13 News, I believe. She's over there covering the Arkansas Razorbacks. It's her birthday today. So shout out to all of them. And if you got a birthday you'd like us to shout out, send it in to us. 850-215-6290. Brady won in 2001, 2003, and then 2004. Then he had the gap of 7 or 8 years. So
yeah, 04 was against us.
Anything is still possible for Patrick Mahomes in the GOAT conversation. All right, we've got some coaches who will more than likely, if they're not already, I don't know. All right, let's talk about this. Hot seat coaches, we're talking college football here. Brian Kelly, before we dive into will they or won't they make it, are they on the hot seat? In your opinion, college football prognosticator, give us your future take here. Is Brian Kelly starting the 2025 season for the LSU football Tigers on a hot seat?
I think so, especially with the success we saw neighbors Brian Thomas and Jaden Daniels have this year in the NFL. to go 9-3 with that squad.
To go 9-3 with that squad. Now the defense was atrocious.
It was.
So it's almost like Lincoln Riley should be coaching LSU.
And then this year he's got.
Does Marcus Freeman's success in Notre Dame bear any weight on what's going on in LSU?
Nah.
No.
Brian Kelly made a national championship and
okay, he did.
So
but he got dominated. But fair enough.
The score looked great, but I mean, at the end of the day, that game
was domination. It was.
Like I said, it's kind of like the Super Bowl where the score is closer than the game felt.
Yeah, but the Super Bowl score.
I mean, I'm not saying it was the same level.
Yeah, no. I'm right there with you.
I mean, Marcus Freeman, sure he won.
We were a punt away, really, right? From maybe getting like one Hail Mary heave.
It almost like, to kind of like what Rick was saying, how the Eagles Ohio State took their foot off the gas way too early and way too quickly. But that's a whole different story. But I think Brian Kelly's on the hot seat. I don't think the Marcus Freeman stuff helps, but I think it's really just LSU fans have expectations. The last three coaches there have won national championships. Brian Kelly was not a great fit from the start. He started off his career with such a great note, beating Alabama, making it to the SEC championship game. The last 2 years have not been up to the standard, and they've got to do. And this year they're one of the few teams in the SEC returning their starting quarterback. Nussmeier's coming back. You kind of expect that to be a good thing, and I don't know if that's a great thing.
Who are the teams returning in the SEC? So Nussmeier,
Lagway at Florida.
Oh, I think Florida could be dangerous.
But outside of that, you're talking.
Alabama, no.
Georgia, no.
Tennessee is
Nico. Imilava. Mizzou, no. Brady Cook's gone.
Ole Miss, no.
Jackson Dart's gone, yeah.
Arkansas,
State, no.
I don't even remember who in the heck it was there.
Anybody really? I don't know.
KJ Jefferson?
He's coming back.
KJ's been gone for almost 2 years. He was the Boise State transfer. He had a really good bowl game, actually. His name escapes me, but he's a very dynamic runner. He had a pretty good game against Tennessee. Anthony?
No, it's I'd have to. Arkansas. So it's Arkansas, Florida, LSU, and that made Vanderbilt, Diego
Taylor Green.
Yeah, Taylor Green. Diego Pavia.
No, because they got Pavia. They got Zach Calzada coming in.
And that may be it.
They had I believe Devin Leary at Kentucky this last year.
Well, Brock Vandergriff, and then he ended up getting benched, and then he actually retired from football.
Yeah.
That may be it. It may just because Mississippi State, no. I'd have to go back down. Auburn, no.
Texas A&M, yes.
Texas A&M,
So the family is going to divorce Brian Kelly, you think?
I think so. Granted, he could have he could save his job like a Ryan Day or whoever. I don't think Ryan Day was as much on the hot seat as people wanted to say, but Brian Kelly could save his job, but I don't think he's proven at LSU he can do that. He hasn't proven to be the dynamic winner that they need to have there. And I think if you're not talking at least 10-2 in a playoff berth, I don't think anything less is going to cut it for him. And looking at their schedule, they play Clemson week 1. That's going to be an interesting game because it says at Clemson that may be a neutral site game, but they do avoid Georgia, they do avoid Texas, they do have Ole Miss and Bama. So there's a couple big games in there. They got to go to Tuscaloosa, which is going to be hard for them. They got Florida at the house after Florida beat them this year. They got to go to Ole Miss. South Carolina was kind of a tricky team.
Positive of Kalen DeVore's first year at Alabama. There was no losses at T-Town, right? Because let's see, Oklahoma was in Oklahoma, Vanderbilt,
and then Tennessee was
Tennessee.
So they defended.
Woo! Attaboy, Kalen DeVore.
I think Brian Kelly's fired next year.
Fired
after next year. I don't think he's gonna. I think they need to make the playoffs, and I don't think they do it.
Lincoln Riley
fired.
Hot seat though.
Hot seat. Oh, 100%. He was 7-5ish this year. Sure they beat Texas A&M in the bowl game. That's great and all, but if you're Lincoln, if you're USC, do you not want more than an Alamo Bowl win or a Vegas Bowl win? Is that not what you're aiming? Should you not be aiming for, especially with other Big Ten teams?
And I was about to say
winning the playoff. Penn State making the Final Four.
And then starts the promising start, beating LSU in that opening game. It's like, wow, our defense is looking legitimate, and you had Miller Moss and all of that good stuff, and it did not pan out.
Yeah, no, I think there's a really good chance Lincoln Riley is not the head coach of USC next year.
So far we've gone through 2 coaches: Brian Kelly, fired. Lincoln Riley, fired. Next, we'll go to those Florida Gators. Billy Napier. Is he on the? He's got to be on the hot seat, right? Or did he cool his seat off enough to be lukewarm with all of the injuries he had to kind of trudge through, DJ Lagway looking, I mean, we knew he was legit, but there's a big difference in having legit hype and being legit.
I think he cooled his seat off. I mean, he obviously cooled his seat off enough to buy another year. Could he afford to go like 4-8 this year? No. I don't think they'll go 4-8. I think he's got a good chance. I think the biggest thing for him is him and DJ Lagway seem to be very connected. So, like, if they were to fire him, Lagway would probably be gone. So I think if he shows, he just has to show decent enough improvement. Lagway has to look pretty dang good for them to be like, okay, what can a year 3 DJ Lagway, Heisman caliber, hopefully, for if you're a Florida Gator fan, if he is that level of quarterback, then maybe that makes 26, and their schedule should probably be a little bit easier in 26.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is right off the top of my head, but I mean, obviously, we'll be kind of getting into a new rotation of SEC play. There'll be a whole new college football playoff probably in 26.
Yeah, 14 teams, boy.
But I mean, if you're looking at their schedule, like Texas at the house, they got to play at LSU, at Miami, but I don't know if they'll definitely lose to LSU or Miami. Texas maybe at A&M would be tough.
Texas is at the house as well.
Yeah, they've got Texas in the swamp. I mean,
they get Texas. They get who else? Who's
they got
the
Georgia.
first one that you said?
They've got at LSU early in the season, which is kind of weird for that game to be early September. They got to play at LSU and at Miami in back-to-back weeks. That's going to be a tough stretch. And then off week playing at Texas. That's a pretty tough 3-game. At College Station playing Texas A&M, how do they look in year 2 under Mike Elko?
Still a really hard schedule.
It's still very difficult.
Yeah.
But I think they get some of their bigger games at the house as opposed to on the road. And I think kind of like what we saw with Georgia this year, they played a lot of their tougher games away from home. They get some of those in Athens this year. Like if he can get 7-5, 8-4, and DJ Lagway looks like that guy, why would you? If you're a Florida fan, you got to be pretty excited about what year 3 with DJ Lagway can look like. And so I think his seat is warm going into next year, and he realistically could coach himself out of a job. I don't think he will. I think he's back in 2026. I would not have thought that going into this year.
Yeah, you wouldn't think he'd be there. But I think
he'll be there. Really. I think he'll be back in 2026.
Wow, and it's a different world that we live in where they're not waiting until week 11 or 12 to find out if they're going to fire you or not. They're firing you in either week 6, 7, or 8 just so that they can get prepared for the transfer portal. Now, if the transfer portal goes, have we solidified that it's just going to be?
I don't think it's like
one day.
I don't think it's 100%.
Okay, so there's still, because if the transfer portal goes to just one day where it's after the season, then I think that then we get back to the normalcy.
A little bit more.
Yeah,
we still got early signing day, which is late December, so you don't give yourself a ton of time postseason. Yeah. But I mean, the fact that the AD had to come out and say like, "Oh, Billy Napier will be back next year," shows you how legitimate his hot seat was going into the year. I think it showed that I think they saw that he did show some progress. Which I mean, beating LSU and Ole Miss down the stretch, not a bad couple wins. Beating Florida State, obviously, that was not as impressive a win as. But beating your in-state rival always helps.
Yeah.
And I mean, if he had lost that game, how bad would that have looked for him?
I mean, how if Florida State fans would have felt like just because of the season that they had going into that, they won the national championship that year.
Yeah, so like I said, I think he'll do enough for them to want to see what year 3 with Lagway looks like.
All right, we also are an affiliate for the Auburn Tigers. Hugh Freeze. It's been a tough go over there for him in Auburn to this point. They did announce today that they're bringing back DJ Durkin. Is his seat hot right now?
I think it's pretty warm. I mean, I think his best case scenario is it's funny because I think we have kind of a similar situation to what we had at Florida going into this year with the quarterback room, the coaching kind of being on the hot seat. Like his progress had not been there like the fans wanted to see. But you've got a guy coming back or a guy coming over in Jackson Arnold who wasn't great at Oklahoma this year. They had a lot of injuries at the wide receiver position, so maybe that played a role. Breaking in a new OC who got fired 8 games into the year. The offense was kind of a mess overall at Oklahoma. Was that Jackson Arnold's fault? Was it not? Who knows? But, I mean, you've got the Jackson Arnold guy, but then you got the freshman Deuce Knight coming in.
Yeah.
Does the fan base want to see him early and often, kind of like what we saw with Florida, wanting to see Lagway, despite Mertz actually being pretty solid for them the last 2 seasons? And kind of how he balanced that. If Deuce Knight is kind of tied to Hugh Freeze, kind of like what we saw with Lagway and Napier, do we see Deuce Knight take over at some point, and then do the fans want to see year 2 of Deuce Knight and Hugh Freeze? Obviously, that's going to depend on how Knight plays and how the season as a whole goes. I think Hugh Freeze's seat is definitely warm. I don't know if he's full on hot seat, but Auburn doesn't like to lose.
Yeah.
I mean, it helps them a little bit that Bama didn't win a national championship this year. Georgia didn't win a national championship.
But they're a team that is, like somewhat inconsistent, where it's like 1 year up and then 1 year down, but to have 3 consecutive years
They're the epitome
down,
of like boom and bust.
yeah, but to have 3 consecutive years down, yeah, Auburn fans can deal with. All right, we'll give you 2 years off, but you need to bring it up to give us a 9 or a 10 win season and have us competitive in the big games.
Yeah.
And when you go 3 years in a row, especially when you come with the previous baggage that Hugh Freeze came with, and then you come with all of the hype because of how he kind of rebuilt himself over there at Liberty, and then it hasn't translated yet, but everyone's like, well, you know, give him time with the transfer portal, let him get his guy, and at what point do we run out of those excuses of let him get his guy?
And what's big for Hugh Freeze this year is he gets both Georgia and Bama on the Plains.
Yeah.
And I mean, we saw year one, like they had Georgia on the ropes, you know, and I think they were more competitive year one against Bama and Georgia than they were year 2.
100%. It took a daggum Hail Mary on 4th and 31.
So, I mean, they had Georgia on the ropes year one, so there was that hope. This year, a little bit less so. Now he gets him back on the Plains. That will help him out a little bit. But I think the biggest thing is you got to see some progress on the field, like not just on the win and loss. You got to see it on the field.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think he'll be back in 2026. But man, if he doesn't win at least 8 games, I think that seat's gonna be hot.
One more before we get to break. Mike Norvell and the Florida State Seminoles last year were 2-10. Now, I don't think that he's necessarily on the hot seat. I don't think that his seat is as hot as it would be if I was the athletic director.
Yeah.
Okay, and me and you are on opposite sides of the fence. I believe that Mike Norvell's a good head coach. Not that you don't believe he's a good head coach. You just don't believe that he is all that he's cracked up to be for some of the hype that he's gotten. However, 2-10. Let's, instead of talking about his seat, how many wins do the Florida State Seminoles need in 2025 for him to retain his job? I've heard from some Seminole fans, hey, get us back up to 6. I've heard it needs to be 8. I've heard from some, with the schedule that we have, it needs to be 10. They start the season off over there in Doak against Alabama. August 30th. That's going to be a hot game. I won't be there. I'm not going to Doak at 2:30 in the afternoon in
August 30th. Yeah. I mean, man,
it might be I don't know what time the game is. It's probably
going to be a nighttime game. I mean, but their schedule, it's tougher this year than it was last year.
Yeah.
I mean, you got Bama at the house, you got Miami at Clemson, and at Florida. I mean, those are going to be 4 probably fairly tough games as a whole. It's crazy to think, you know, a team 1 year removed from going 13-0 or 13-1, that maybe 6 wins is enough. But I mean, man, they were so bad. And I think just seeing the progress, like if the offense looks competent this year, right? The defense was good at times, bad at others. I think they got worn down as the season went on, knowing that it was kind of a done deal.
It was like pointless to play defense if the offense can't do anything.
I mean, but if they're going out and scoring 30 points a game, but they lose because they gave up 31, maybe that's a little bit easier to stomach after what they saw this year. But I think you got to expect 8 wins.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, you lose your 4 toughest games. You should be, as Florida State, you should probably have to out-talent 8 other teams on your schedule. And I think they can do that. And I mean, maybe 7-5. But I think anything worse than that, he needs to be on the legitimate hot seat.
Their wide receiving core, they're like 6'8", 6'7", 6'5". Like they are tall over there. Is Castellanos, though, a guy from Boston College? Is he a guy that can come in and be what you need over there at Florida State? That's kind of yet to be determined. Did he have good things happen for him over there with Bill O'Brien and Boston College? There's no doubt about that. Firsthand if you're a Florida State fan from Labor Day. But it's one of those, will he be able to take them to new heights? For me, 7 wins is the magic number.
Yeah.
But I think 8 is where I'm happy with it. 7 could be hot seat.
I think 7 should be the floor for him.
Yeah.
Should be the floor expectation as a Florida State fan.
Yeah. And it's so hard, too, when you're such a successful program as what Florida State, what Florida, what Miami. Like, when you are, 2 is unheard of for those programs, It really is. And then when, you don't go in as a fan with 7 or 8 wins on Florida fans. It was even hard for them to wrap their heads around our win total is 4.5, and then look what they did. Look what they came out and did. I would say one of the more successful seasons in the SEC, just because of what they were expected to do and what they actually did. I mean, and South Carolina right up there with them. Not even just take the expectations out of it. What South Carolina was able to do almost was that team to beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa, just really a little punt sidekick away, or punt onside kick away from making that happen. You guys are riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. We'll jump into some quick local scores, and then we'll get into some more takes from Tyler here, our college football prognosticator. We'll be right back right here on ESPN Northwest Florida.
Northwest Florida. It's the Coach James Hale Show.
You know the traditional, when you win a big game, you take the toilet paper and you roll the trees. There's a place they do it.
Yeah, and
that's
so
a
Toomer's
tradition.
Corner, this little wrap around it, the extra thing of toilet paper, and it said Toomer's Corner on it, right?
Oh, cool. Yeah.
You know what I use that for?
To roll
to go to the bathroom.
Weekday morning 7 to 9, ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good evening. This is Joanna with your weather forecast from ESPN Northwest Florida on this Tuesday. Slightly foggy and mostly cloudy tonight with a wind at 11 miles per hour out of the south and a low of 67. Tomorrow morning, look for slight fog and some clouds with a temperature near 73. The afternoon and evening, a high around 73 and a mixture of some sun and very light rain. This weather forecast is brought to you by Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Thank you for tuning into ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Golf is a game that should be fun, but to have the most fun, you need to play your best. That's where the experts at Golf Plus come in. Their friendly staff will guide you through the buying process, answer all your questions, and can help with any repairs you need along the way. Golf Plus is your custom fitting, club repair, and golf retail shop. Golf Plus staff is non-commissioned and will work with you to find the best product for your game, just like they've been doing since 1988. Golf Plus in Dothan and Panama City Beach. Fitting, repair, retail. That's Golf Plus.
Are you looking for a place to take a leak? Do you have a truck, tractor, or other hydraulic equipment leaking or not performing as it should? At Reliable Hydraulic Solutions, we can get you back to work. Do you have a busted or leaking hose? We can typically replace them while you wait. Hydraulic cylinder or pump needing repair? In many cases, we can have it back to you the next day. Reliable Hydraulic Solutions, 6840 Highway 77 in Southport, just south of Tractor Supply. The best place in town to take a leak.
Who was hired? Who was fired? Trades, drafts, and playoffs. We're talking about it.
That trade, when it was made, was the right trade.
Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs, right here on ESPN Northwest Florida.
We're back. This is our final segment of the afternoon here. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida. Your home for Auburn Tiger basketball. Coverage starts right here after us at 6 p.m. for the tip between the Auburn Tigers and the Vanderbilt Commodores. All right, tonight in boys soccer, North Bay Haven travels over there to Tallahassee to take on FSU High. North Bay Haven is 5-10-1. FSU High is 12-3-3. That game will start at 7 p.m. Then Keystone Heights is 11-6-3. They're traveling to South Walton, who's 14-3-5, and they started at 5 p.m. On the girls' side of soccer, Fernandina Beach is 10-7-1. North Bay Haven is 13-4-2, and they will start tonight at 6 p.m. Our scores from last night, we got some JUCO and high school baseball. Gulf Coast took down Logan 8-2. And in high school baseball, Mosley over Crestview 4-1. St. John Paul II beat Vernon 15-0. Port St. Joe beat Weewaw 11-0. I believe that game only went 4 innings. But a little side note about Weewaw is they are basically a junior varsity team playing varsity level. So it's going to be a tough go for them this year. But they will. That's going to be one of those things that pays off in the long run, because you're sitting there as JV guys playing varsity baseball, and you'll get better by the junior year of that class. They're going to be giving teams the business. Alpha beat Crossroad Academy 19-3, and Niceville beat Mariana 15-2. So those are your scores and the games tonight. We've got some girls and boys basketball coming up this Thursday or Wednesday and Thursday. We'll have Banji Bamadella on with us tomorrow at 4:20 to wrap that up. All right, let's get back to some college football. Tyler's takes going up on a Tuesday. He is our college football prognosticator, and we left off talking about hot seats for coaches here in the world of college football. What about the American Football Coaches Association? They've submitted a proposal that would require a player who goes down on the field and receives medical attention to sit out for the rest of that possession. for the rest of the possession, so not just, till you get another first down, right now, the player must go out for one play before re-entering. Do you think that would be something that curtails, that slows down what we're seeing in college football, which I think we see it really across all sports?
Yeah, I mean, I would hope so to an extent. There's probably not many guys on an average team that if they're in for that play, that they want to lose for an entire drive, right? I mean, so sure, you could send a guy out there. There's the whole rumors that coaches used to send like third string guys out there to pick a fight with some of the other teams to get them both ejected, whatever. But I mean, I think everybody wants to see this end, but I don't think we want to penalize guys who are legitimately hurt. You know what I'm saying? Like if a guy gets shaken up, gets the air knocked out of him, 2 plays later he's ready to go back in, and say it's like a Jalen Carter type guys for the NFL. Obviously in the NFL they're probably not adapting this rule, but whoever you want to on your favorite team, like do you want them being penalized because they legitimately got the wind knocked out of them? But if we want to say player safety is at paramount, and that's why we're making the game shorter, even though we're still doing the same amount of commercial breaks, we're trying to do this, that, and whatever. Like at a certain point, it's hard not to do it. But I mean, I think the problem is occasionally you get the ones where the guys are standing there, they get a signal, and they just drop to the ground. Yeah. And those are the ones that people hate.
That's when you got a flag, man. That's called like diving.
Yeah, and I think there should be some,
But then you get into, that's a subjection call, right? Where it's up to the referee's discretion on were they faking it or were they not? And that's something that we're talking about injuries.
Yeah.
So
there's a difference in flopping and being injured, though, right?
But the thing was that the SEC said this or midway through the season that they were going to, had the ability to fine coaches if they believed that players were faking injuries. I think they did it to Josh Heupel for at least.
And I think that they should do that. Go back, watch the game. You get a whole day or whatever. Yeah. You get a whole Sunday to go back, watch the game, and if you believe that you saw a signal, and then right after that signal, a player goes down, because if he's looking at the sideline and gets injured, goes down to the ground, then obviously that's nefarious play at that point in time.
I think the best, make it a fine. However, $100,000, whatever, X amount of their salary, X amount of their game check for the coaches or whatever. Yeah. And it goes directly to the other school's NIL fund.
It should be a percentage of the coach's contract or something. Not like these set amounts, because there's some coaches that's a drop in the bucket. That don't matter.
$100,000 for Kirby Smart and $100,000 for the Georgia Southern head coach are different, right?
Second time you lose a graduate assistant, so then that guy is losing his career. And then the third time, you're losing a whole scholarship.
I mean, scholarships with NIL, do they matter?
Yeah,
I think it just escalates. It's 2%, 5%, whatever it was, then 10%. Then it just keeps doubling. We
need to get to NIL salary caps,
and then it goes directly to the school you were playing their NIL fund.
That sounds good. That's a good idea.
And NIL salary caps also, though.
That's a whole different thing that we got to try to figure out.
That's a whole nother thing. I mean, because this is it's such a momentum killer.
It is.
And here's my other thing is, if a guy, if his leg is not broken in half, go lay down on the sideline. Or if you can, even with a cramp, fake it better.
That's part of the issue. Some of these are so bad.
Walk to the sideline, though. Yeah. You know what I mean? And how about you've got 4 guys on the sideline, always ready to go with a stretch. Now, obviously, this is like people who are probably there's probably EMS guys listening right now. Like, dude,
that's not how that works.
You can't do that. And this game, you can't just be like, let's put 4 guys out there who always have a stretcher ready to go.
Look at soccer. I mean, soccer, there's dudes down and they run out there with like a little stretcher and they carry dudes off the field.
There we go. So
they really do.
That's what we need to start happening. Then you just go out there.
Well, how about this? If you can get off on your own power without help, maybe you don't be out for the whole drive, maybe a few plays, but then if you need to be helped,
if they've got to stop the game for you,
then you're out for the whole drive if they have to stop the game.
If they stop play.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
If they stop play, and the play clock should be running, as soon as that play ends, the play clock should be running, especially with college football. What do you get, 40 seconds in between plays? Yeah. And they run at a higher tempo on an average rate than what the NFL does anyways. When you see those up-tempo
and not only you're
offenses,
saying it kills the momentum, but it also more commercials, it's more stoppage of time because they're going to cut the commercial, and it just drags the game out. And we want to get rid of these games not super fast, but you got to make time for the other ones.
Also, we need to get reviews under check. If you have to sit there for 5 minutes watching it frame by frame, that is not indisputable video evidence.
Okay.
In my opinion, I think they used to time reviews in the NFL, or I feel like there used to be a clock on it.
Well, it used to be quicker anyways.
It's just if you're having to sit there with
a part of the
slow-mo
broadcast
remote and having to do for 6 minutes, okay, well, that's not indisputable video evidence. Like, it should have to
and you
be
got a whole
indisputable.
gang of people watching all of these different. Like, why does it have to be? It just have a referee crew at a certain spot, right? Like,
just one centralized like ref in New York watching the games.
Well,
hey, we're reviewing this. What is
Go
it?
back to soccer again. They have VAR, the video assisted like
that's, I mean,
ref
the same,
or whatever.
kind of
but I mean, the ref on the field is watching it. It's not going up to some booth or like to New York where a bunch of people are sitting there making a decision. It's the guy on the field.
That's how it used to be.
The head ref on the field.
Isn't that how it is? They bring you out the little
tablet.
and then
Review should not take more than 2 minutes.
Yeah,
I'm
with you on that, but I'm also on the side of we should get the calls as close to correct as possible. And again, I go back to what you're saying. If you have to watch, and the reason why I say that is sometimes there's a view that takes a little while for them to get to, but I don't believe that that's the case because they have all of those views right there in front of them playing on different monitors.
Yeah. How is there not somebody like pre-screening the view? Like, hey, this is going to be your best view. This is your second best view, third best view, whatever it is. Like, there's too much technology, too much video. Like, we're watching it at home. It's like, okay, yeah, that's clearly a catch. Yeah. And they still review it for another 3.5 minutes.
And they come out and say it's not a catch.
Or when they change, it's like, but we knew this 10 minutes.
Or you have like a person or two that just watches every play and they're looking for stuff like that. So if it does go to where it goes to a review, there's people that have already watched that and already kind of have like an idea.
Exactly like what he's saying.
Like,
there's your top 3 views.
Yeah, it's just I feel like it just. I mean, granted, I'm all for getting the calls right. But like it was supposed to be indisputable video evidence, and now it's just taking like, oh, if we can pull out a microscope and see that blade of grass, oh, we're good. Like, no, that's just.
Well, and you go to the combination of the XFL and the USFL, the UFL, like they do all of theirs live on camera. Yeah, like you can hear the referee and everything. Why don't we? Especially in college
football, there's not as much money involved in that, and like as there is in the NFL.
Right, exactly. But see, these are the things though that don't you think gamblers would feel more confident if they're hearing? You see what I'm saying? It gives sports betting more integrity, in my opinion.
And I would love to hear like somebody in a New York office talking to the head official and them both commenting like, okay, I'm seeing this. Are you seeing that? And that way you kind of get a collaborative effort.
And again,
and be transparency.
Make the refs have to be accountable. They have to sit down at a press conference. They have to answer the calls that they make.
And they don't have to. They don't got to get badgered. There should only be a list of so many questions or whatever. You know what I mean? But it should be the top 5 plays from the game. What was going on there? You know. But yes, they should be accountable for that. And I think that would be great for sports in general. But again, the more public that you make these referees' lives, the worse it is going to be for them. Because at the end of the day, no matter if they made the right call or not, someone's going to be ticked off with them.
Oh yeah.
You know, like that's just we don't look at it that way, but there is crazy people in this world. There's no doubt about that. Well, Tyler, as always, here on a Tuesday, fun to have you in the building with us, man. How many days is it until college football again?
Like
6 months?
6 months and 12 days, I think, till week 0 kicks off. So.
But we'll have you back next Tuesday. We'll be getting ready, all ramped up for the draft. Caveman Rick, thanks so much.
Fly, Eagles, fly, baby.
Yeah, no, I've been looking at this thing. Every time that he comes in and runs the board, he just fly, Eagles, fly, fly, Eagles, fly. Like, it's bad enough.
I'm looking. 2 days I'm
looking at this Eagles garbage.
At least a week, man.
Friday, it was Friday and today.
Yeah, I know. And I'm complaining, all right? I'm complaining. No, we'll have Caveman Rick back tomorrow with us. For Caveman Rick, Tyler Bishop, I'm David Hayes. The most important thing that I say anytime that I'm on these airwaves, Jesus loves you, so do I. Y'all have a great evening. Be safe, and don't forget to keep it locked in here for the Auburn Tigers and Vanderbilt Commodores.
It's the ESPN Northwest Florida Hall of Arts Magic